Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the ASR Super Series. We are here for round 6 this week after an extended series break. Sorry about that. But the cars have been out a fortnight ago and are out on track once again. Tonight, it is Oran Park Raceway, everyone's favorite former racetrack and current housing development. But it is a track that lives on in our memories and, of course, in the sim racing scene. I am Michael Zalavari. Joining me tonight is Benjamin Rhodey Rhodes. Good evening, Rhodey.
Evening, Floody. It's been a good long while since we've been in the box together, and yeah, first time for me outside of Supercar Super 2 commentary for about the last year, but I'm happy to be here in Oran Park. It's a really great little track.
It's fantastic to have you, Rhodey, and it has been a while. The last time we worked it out, actually, the last time we were in the box together was back in the TCAC. It was the Australian Touring Car Championship series where we were at Barbagallo.
Yeah, and that was a really cracking race. It was as it was for the most of that series. It was Hobbo at the front with Nolan close behind, and Will was having a really good round in his Mercedes. It was a track that really suited that Merc, and he had the pace and he was quicker than Nolan and potentially Hobbo, I think. He just couldn't get past Nolan, and Nolan did everything within the letter of the law to keep him behind. And it was nothing we could have looked back as stewards and said he done something wrong. But for 50 minutes, and I believe they pitted within a lap or two of each other as well, if not on the same lap. Will spent 50 minutes up behind Nolan through bumper, couldn't do a damn thing about it, and there was some steam coming out of some ears after that race, but it was all legal, and there was some really good racing. So, based on that track record, we should have some really good racing tonight.
Absolutely, that was a track that really brought out the best in those cars. And I think this is a track as well that brings out the best in these cars. We'll bring up the race information now. Oran Park Raceway. It was a fantastic little circuit, nice little noodly little circuit. 2.5 Ks, just a bit over 12 turns, and one of the very few figure 8 circuits, Rhodey.
It is, yeah, one of the very few with any sort of bridge element to it. I know there's one in New Zealand currently that's got it. I think it's Highlands. Obviously, Suzuka's a figure 8 circuit, but not a commonly used format. And I suppose I can see why, because it's a bit of an issue with If cars go astray at the bridge, rather than just going off the track, you're actually then going to fall, at least a story worth of gap. But no, it's a shame that the track hasn't survived to the current day, because it is still a really good little circuit to race on. It's just the land that it was on, as for many circuits around the world that have not really had the international acclaim. The land they've been on has been worth more than the track itself, and so from 2009 onwards, this has been a housing estate. But thanks to the magic of SimRacing, we've still got it here and still able to race on it tonight.
And the track has a few very notable features. So that dive down the hill into turn 1 and 2, that very difficult corner at turn 2, expect to see a lot of cars fly off the end there. But something that always strikes me when I race on it, or when I watch races on it every single time, is the elevation change. The fact that you have quite a bit of elevation. Of course, you're doing a figure 8 circuit, so there needs to be a fair amount of elevation to get over the bridge. But B as well, how even it wears on the tires, because of that figure 8 element. It's actually pretty even on both sides of the car.
Yeah, between that and with where those corners go, it's and because it's figure 8, it's anti-clockwise, but it does also anti-clockwise section. So yeah, it gives your lefts a good wear in for sort of the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 section as you spiral up and over the bridge. And then, down through turn 1 and turn 2, where's the rights. And then the last couple of sectors, there's a flip-flop, which wears them pretty evenly, but 7, 8, 9 section, or the 8, 9 section takes care of your rights. And then the hairpin at the end, turn 12, takes care of your rights. So, very evenly balanced tyre wear, not like
Winton.
Trying to pick some of the tracks, but Winton's a good example. There's a couple of tracks that we've had so far this season that have had very uneven tyre wear, but no, this is really sort of the dream for a race driver, because you're not having to worry about, you're not worried about tyre wear, because it just looks after the car very evenly.
And on that note as well, there was a very large change to the regulations in the running of this series over the series break. I almost want to call it a summer break, because that's kind of what it is in terms of motorsport. We've gone from a 2 times tyre wear formula to a 1 times tyre wear formula. That was a change that was made off the back of a bunch of feedback off the first half of the season. A lot of drivers complaining that they couldn't really get into the sprint element of the races because of having to worry about the tires all the way down to the very end. And we saw that come to fruition, I think, at Wakefield Park. That was the first time we saw cars take pit stops for tires. And I think this has been a good move by the admin team to try and make it to try and remove that from consideration and allow everyone to fire off as fast as they can. Rody, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, having driven the cars both, granted I was driving the Rs, not the RSs, but I drove the Rs before the tyres were swapped, and actually I jumped in one of the guest RSs the last time out at Lakeside just to try something different. I think it's a good move, because while there's drivers out here that really thrive and excel off of having to manage pace and tyre wear, and we see this with the guys who race in Super 2, because that's been an issue. Pukekohe Park, the last round on Friday, was a good example of that one, where we were so confident as broadcast from what we heard that the tyres weren't going to make it, but somehow people like Braxton and Dane were putting in the pace they were and still managed to get the tyres last. But no, I think it's been really good, because it leveled the playing field. The guys that can't manage, for whatever reason their driving style doesn't suit tyre conservation, means they can still achieve the pace they want to achieve to race with, to keep up with, Hobbo and Rosella. And in the case of the B class, or the B class, the R class, not maybe so much Tim. Tim's tyre wear didn't really play a factor in the R class outside of some of the really aggressive tracks where you were starting to push into, to the point where you didn't have to swap tyres, but you were definitely in a low grip stage on, say, a corner of the car, which made, the handling a little iffy. Not so much in the case of catching Tim, but I mean, it makes that mid-pack sort of second back a lot more exciting. In this case, at the moment, Termo and Ben Hall at the moment sitting there in second and third in class.
Yeah.
It makes their race a bit more exciting, because the tyre wear doesn't affect them as massively. Even on those really high deg tracks, they can still be pushing. So I think it's been a really good move, and it brings back the more sprint series format, which when you're doing races that are 15 minutes plus a lap long, you don't want to treat it as anything other than a sprint race. So no, I think it's a really good move.
Exactly. And just a reminder of that format, we've got it up on screen. Race 1 by qualifying results. Race 2 is a full reverse grid based on the classes. And then race 3 is just a progression from the race 2 grid. Cars are just currently in their briefing. So we'll take a quick look at the point standings that's what the one we want for the RS class. So this is after last round out, 5 of 8 rounds completed, and it is unsurprisingly Brenton Hobson with a 82-point lead at the head of the championship, ahead of Brenton Foley in second place, and then more than 100 points back to Luke Joyner. So Luke Rosella in the midst in fourth, and Damon Woods, a few of those guys may be missing a few rounds, so they have dropped away down the order, but it is Brenton Hobson quite clearly out in front. And you got to say, Rody, this isn't too much of a surprise based on the pace we saw at the beginning of the season.
No, Hobbo does Hobbo things, and Hobbo's managed to be quick in almost everything he's thrown himself into. So his pace isn't really a surprise. Foley hasn't quite had the luck that he'd like in some instances. He's not quite as quick. He's been consistently the second fastest car, which shows in the points situation. I think Joyner's been the only other sort of full-time competitor. And then going from down there, Rosella, he's had decent pace in these cars, but he missed Winton and Lakeside. He is back for tonight, so he'll be able to at least bring himself up to third in the points.
I believe he had a university thing for Winton and maybe for Lakeside as well. So, imagine trying to further your career and personal life by doing university. Who does that?
No, sorry. You make a great point. I forgot about that. But then, and Damon as well is another quick driver. But he's from what I understand, he's around a team structure where his boss dictates where he races rather than the other way around.
Yeah, so, okay.
He's been stepping back from Automobilista, which is a shame because he's had some really good pace with Evolution Racing Team, but he's not here. And the rest of that sort of top 10 down are guys that have just sort of popped in and out. With Higo, who's stepping back. Or I say he's actually reappeared tonight. Yeah. He's not liking these cars much at all. So
of course not. He's right foot heavy, and he's used to spinning cars and getting that's how he turns them. But these are all-wheel drive cars.
They're just a bit too. And I've found a similar thing. They're just a bit too stiff for a car. Very hard to get them to turn because their preference to understeer, if anything, and they're just too. At least from where we drive and our driving styles, they're too stiff of a car. I prefer a car definitively understeer or something that I could work with, but it just four-wheel slides when it runs out of grip, and it's too even. I'm just saying somebody go airborne in the background somewhere.
We'll move on to the R class, and this has been a School of Tim Redmond class. He's done quite a few last to first challenges and pulled them off quite well. He's leading the championship by, I think that's 61 points, if my quick maths is right. No, 71 points for some even better quick maths ahead of Termo. And then Steve Bolger, Brock Harvey, and Steve Warwick. Quite a big gap between Bolge and Brock. I think neither of them are here tonight, however, so we won't be getting that battle. Tim Redmond, initially a wild card, but he's absolutely schooled the R-Class field.
Yeah, and again, like with Tim's pace, that's not a really big surprise either. He came in last year and won the Super 2 Summer Series, and he's been ploughing through it since. We were looking back at the points for supercars, and he's sitting second in the supercars points, which is a bit of a surprise considering the caliber of the supercars field. But no, Timmy's gotten bloody quick, and the annoying thing with Timmy is he's quick, but he's likable. So it's very hard to hate on him, even though he goes and wins everything he steps into. He's I suppose the R class of the R class version of Hobbo, but no, he's been really good as well. And it's a shame for those guys at the bottom end of that top 5 that they're not here tonight because they've had some really good battles so far. But I suppose that means that coming on the next round of the round after, we should see them back hopefully.
And we should see a group of new drivers to hopefully take their place. I think Steve Warwick is sitting in 5th in the championship, so he's here tonight. Braxton Stancliffe's jumping in the RS class rather, and Ben Hall, a good opportunity for him. So they are the guys to look forward to tonight as we get ready to go for qualifying. We're just waiting on the field to round out, so we'll jump in to the session and see what we can find. 15-minute session, and it's a split session as well. So we'll see the R-Class cars come out first, followed by the RS class cars to finish off the qualifying session. Have you felt the split session has worked so far this season, Rody?
I think that's been another good little thing that we've thrown in. it just ensures that each class gets a clear track to work with. You don't have any worries the lower class about leaving room on track for the upper class cars to get past you, and vice versa. You don't have to worry as the RS guys worrying about the R's balking your lap. And it makes things easier for us as well because we actually get to see who's the fastest in each class as they go out. Because it will put Tim Redmond, or well, I can't say this because it could be someone else, but in instance, it would put Tim Redmond in P1 rather than below 6 or 7 RS cars in 6 or 7. So it means it shows us who the top 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5 are in RS, sorry, in R, and then it lets us see who those top are in RS at the back end of the session.
And it looks like Tim is actually going to be qualifying tonight. He is out on track in the red wildcard entry, the red sky example. There is Steve Warwick. It looks like we've got another one of those red. That's actually Brian Walsh in the Mitsubishi Motors machine. And here is Steve Warwick. We made mention that he's got a chance to move up in the championship tonight without his direct competitors close by. Who else have we got? We've got Ben Hall in the Luke McHugh Racing Harvey Norman machine. Termo, of course, in the Monster Energy Lancer, the one that he's been piloting all season. Tim Redmond we made mention of, and I think as well we have a Taipan in the green wildcard car. So we've got 6 runners in the R class.
Yeah, the numbers are a little down on what we've seen so far, and whether it's just, I don't know, people going back into sprint racing after the Enduro Cup are now a bit raced out is potential, but I know that obviously I'm not there, and I've been there all season. A couple of the drivers that aren't there as well, whether it's just for Elio. I saw a message from Brock at some point as to why he's not here, but that's still a good number. And outside of Tim, they're all fairly even on pace. So even though it's only going to be like a 5-car mid-pack battle, it should still be a really good race for these guys. But we'll see how they go in qualifying first.
And we've got the first hot laps coming through. Just a quick reference to the sector markers. The first sector ends just underneath the bridge. The second sector ends just before the flip-flop at turns 10 and 11. The last sector, of course, runs down to the line. We'll be watching Taipan head under the bridge. He's a second, 1.5 seconds behind the best first sector time, which is actually Ben Hall at the moment. First cab off the rank is the one setting the impressive time at the minute. He's just ahead of what Taipan has to offer by literally 9,000ths of a second to the first sector as we watch Taipan just run a little wide off the exit of the bridge, and that will be his lap probably given away due to a track cut.
Yeah, no, it's we're talking about Ben and his pace so far, and he is now down on the best time to the second sector, which confuses me because he's the first one going through it.
That is very confusing. Maybe that'll reset once he crosses the line. Because
it might be pulling off of maybe practice times or something. I don't know. We'll see as he crosses the line.
Yeah, there we
go. Now he goes to P1. But 5 seconds down suggests it's still pulling off of times from practice.
The RS time, yeah.
Yes. But that'll also have to cycle through properly. But yeah, Ben's gone to the top at the moment with a 119.1. Termo is 0.3 off, and then Taipan is a second behind. Redmond, obviously something happening on that first lap for him, and I saw Steve Warwick in the gravel trap down at turn 2. And Walsh is coming through. He's the last car to set a representative lap time, and he drops in 6th. So I think a small issue for Walsh.
Maybe not a representative lap time for Walsh.
No, I think a couple of guys that are just setting some bankers at the moment, but. No, Ben's talking about current pole sitter. He's had some really good pace. He's come on really, really well over the last 6-12 months. There was a point where we were very similar on pace. Even at the start of the supercar season, we were, battling door to door. But he's come on really well, especially in these things. They seem to suit him quite well. It's probably a bit of a surprise, and yeah, it could be granted. I don't know, Redmond. I expect if he's out here to qualify, he's actually going to set a representative lap time, so I expect it to come up at some point. But for him to be doing quicker than Termo at the moment, and based on these times, the gaps they've got at the moment, they're going to be in a good little battle, I would imagine. So he's coming on quite well, and he's making some moves in the championship. And we speak of Termo, he's just gone quicker by just over 0.3.
But we're actually going to see a new fastest lap from, I think, Tim Redmond as he comes to the line. He's gone purple in sectors 1 and 2 and 3 to take the provisional pole, a 17.5, which is a full second ahead of what Termo has at the minute. So Tim Redmond has the pace behind him once again. So it is currently Tim Redmond from Turmo, Ben Hall, then Steve Warwick sits in 4th place. Taipan, 900ths of a second behind Steve Warwick. And then Brian Walsh, who is still struggling to grab a lap together. It's a very difficult place to get all the pieces to fit together. But Taipan's doing, Tim Redmond's doing quite a good job at the minute. Purple again to Sector 1. So let's see how he comes through Sector 2. Sliding his way through turns 7 and 8 now. Using the curb on the entry to turn 8 to just straighten the car up as he slides again through turn 9. Very nicely done. And he's 800ths of a second up.
It's not much, but with the second gap, he doesn't he's just chasing sort of a personal pride, I suppose, at this point with the pace he's been showing across the season. Another thing for him, I suppose, as a challenge of any of the new guys coming into the RS class cars that maybe haven't had the time to put the laps down as to how close he can get. But he's up to a 1:17.4 at this point. Actually, I'm not sure if he went anywhere with that one. I know Termo's improved.
He was improved by a 10th. Oh, and there he goes.
There he goes. I saw somebody crash, heard somebody crash near him. But Termo improved that last lap through as well. He was actually ahead of him, so that he's gone, I think it was 3/10 quicker, or just under 3/10 quicker. So
who was that?
He's
sorry,
fighting into that.
That was Taipan that crashed at turn 1. He's exited out to the pits.
So we shouldn't be too far off at this point. These guys having their last couple of laps. We're approaching halfway through the session. Termo's looking very aggressive, actually. A lot of curb use. Just really trying to get that car turned. I know some guys, mentioning Higginson and myself again, we went through a strategy in the races, even the RS class cars, of aggressively wearing the rears in the warm-up session and starting with roted rears to try and get the rear to turn to get the car to actually turn in. Termo's given away that lap, though, so yeah, we're not far off ending the session for the R guys. Ben's done a lap and he's up to his PB in the first sector.
And very close to Tim Redmond's time as well, 900ths away to the first sector mark.
Well, the first sector is relatively simple. It is just turn 1 and turn 2. But that said, yeah, he's still, he's still on the money there. We're seeing now through here, though, this is a bit more technical, this section, and you need to have the car to turn, or at least be able to have the way you want it to achieve the pace that you want to achieve. And Ben's come on pretty well with these cars, bit of curb use there. It doesn't look too far off the base, bit of a slide there as well. But again, if it helps the car turn, it's all good.
And he's up on his PB,
he's
up
lost
by 3/10.
He's made up three and a half tenths. He's lost 7/10 to Redmond there. But he is still, if he can improve out of this last sector, he might still be in the chance of getting ahead of Termo.
We'll find out as he comes to the lane, and he stays third by 500ths of a second. So it was very close in the end, but here comes the RS machines. So we've got Braxton Stancliffe out on circuit, Luke Joyner, Nathan Higginson, Brendan Ross, Brendan Foley, Brenton Hobson as well. So that is the RS class group. I think that's another 6 cars in that little group.
Yep.
And Luke Rosella, who's not in the server currently. What's happened to Luke?
He dropped as the session ticked over, and the rules on qualifying to prevent any issues for anyone who is qualifying is that you can't rejoin once qualifying has started. So I imagine he will be racing. He'll probably be starting off the back of the grid.
Oh, that's a bit of a shame for Rosella, as we'll jump on board with Brendan Hobson, as he's right in the wheel tracks of Nathan Higginson, and we'll just watch an onboard lap of Oran Park, and we'll show you how a master goes about getting around this circuit. So down into turn 1, he's making the move here as well. Just a little tap on the brakes in turn 1 and setting the car up for turn 2. Hobbo just nicks the curb on the inside before running it out to the outside. And I think we lost Nathan Higginson in the background there. There's the first sector mark at 20.6. Down to second through turn 3. Nicely done over the curb, and then the track starts to rise out of turn 4. So really carry a lot of speed through turn 4 and 5. The track feels like it falls away as you get through to 6. So just a little breath on the throttle, and then 7 and 8. Dive the car into the apex, ride that concrete berm on the inside, use the curb through turn 8 to straighten the car up, and then brake on the curb for turn 9. Tips it in quite nicely, does Hobbo, and he'll get a second sector time in a moment. It is a 56.9, very fast the second sector as he goes through the flip-flop. Braking just where the gully is for the final corner. Use all the way up to the concrete wall on the right-hand side rather, and comes across the line. It's a 13.9, which is the fastest time of the session, unsurprisingly, as it is the first RS class time of the session. And he currently sits on pole.
Yeah, the next car coming up for a lap, I think, is going to be Brenton Foley. I'll also see Joyner in front of him, who's also on a lap. So these two will be coming through line of stern, probably getting a little bit of benefit of slipstream from Joyner down the straight. Obviously, I wouldn't say obviously, but from what I can see, they're down on Hobson's time, but it means to see them come to a line where they sit respective.
Joyner goes 2.8 seconds behind, and Foley picked up a track cut, so he doesn't go anywhere.
Yep, so he's on front of the lap, I think, or they're both on front of the lap. Next driver on a lap at the moment is Braxton Sandcliffe. He's coming up towards the flip-flop now.
We just had Luke Joyner exit stage right, so he won't be improving this time around.
Oh, and he's almost getting too much turn out of the car the way that it's looking for Braxton, which he likes a bit of behaviour from the car like that. I'm not sure if it's quite working for him. It seems like he's having to overdrive the car to get any pace out of it.
And he just collected the wall there at the final quarter and slots into 6th place at the moment. Brendan Hobson, I think, just improved his lap time as well. Yeah, he's gone to a 13.6, which is 700ths away from his fastest lap of the night. I saw that Brendan Foley was quick to the first sector and will get his second sector time. And he's 1/10 away from Brendan Hobson at this point. So it's only the hairpin to go for Foley. Looks very nice through there. Runs it all the way out to the wall. And we start that plunge down the hill, down the main straight. And it's second, 2.5 tenths outside for Brendan Foley, a 13.9. So the second man into the 13s.
Not bad. No, some really good pace for Foley there. Rossi also jumped him into the third. There is just a bit over 2 seconds back from the pole time of Hobson.
And here he is on screen now.
That's the Brendan top 3 that we've seen a couple of times so far. Luke's probably a little bit off the pace we'd like to see, and Braxton's got a little way to come up as well. The only driver in a lap so far is Nathan Higginson, who I've seen leave the pits twice, and he's still on out lap, which leads me to believe he's not. I'm guessing just going a bit too hard on the car a bit too early, and the tyres aren't responding. But he should get a lap in now. He's still got 2.5 minutes left in the session.
Brendan Ross was just watching to the second sector marker. Second up on his PB. 6/10 down, though, on Hobbo. This lap would be good enough to see him improve on his lap time, but not necessarily jump any positions. And we'll watch him come across the line, and it is a market improvement on his lap time, a 14.8, as he jumps into the pit lane. So he's got 8 tenths to find to move up to the front row of the grid, which isn't a foregone conclusion at this point, as Nathan Higginson exits stage right once again through turn 1. He's got 2 minutes to stitch a lap together, so maybe another shot after this one, as he's 2 seconds down on the pole time.
Yeah, so he's one of 2 drivers trying to chase at the moment, trying to get out of the RS bubble, as it were. So out of the R bubble, as it were. Braxton's the other one. He's currently sitting behind Ben Hall positionally. It's sort of time-based, but it's obviously not going to be where he starts the race. But he's got a second to make up just to clear Team Redmond. He's up 3 tenths, but that car just... I know that these cars... I can't remember how much setup direction you get with these cars, but whatever setup direction you get, it isn't working for Braxton at the moment.
And Braxton did only download the mod minutes before the start of this session. So he's just found 8 tenths on that lap. So he's got another 2 to find to eclipse Redmond and get on the back of the RS cars. So it might look like a bit of doom and gloom for Braxton at the moment, but he has only had about 10 minutes in this car so far tonight. So it is an ever-evolving process, and he's got a little bit of way to go to find his pace in this car, but we know that Braxton has a lot of pace in some other series that we've seen him racing in. Let's see who else is on a quick lap at the moment as the final laps are coming in. 30 seconds left in the session. What we'll do actually is we'll find Nathan Higginson. We'll see if he can get a lap stitched together. He's coming through turn 6 at the moment over the hill. Lights ablaze, looking for anything to give him just the tiniest little bit of a psychological advantage to get around the back half of the track.
He has already improved. That last lap 3 he did was a 17.4, which has put him
ahead of Tim
Redmond, but clear of Redmond. So he has qualified 5th on merit, and he's up by 2 seconds over his PB. So assuming he hasn't picked up a cut in doing that, that's quite good. That's going to put him ahead of Joyner, ahead of Braxton, who's just jumped him, gone 5, nearly 6 tenths quicker. And this will be his last lap. So Higginson improves to 4th.
Wow, he grabbed Joyner as well. He almost grabbed Rossi in the last stages. Brendan Foley comes across the line. Next we'll be waiting for is this man, Brendan Hobson. Oh, we come to Brendan Hobson just as he hit the bridge. Let's have a quick look on the replay there and see what happened to Hobbo. So comes through turn 4, nicely up the hill. Oh, got 2 wheels on the sand and then couldn't gather it up before the bridge, and bang. That was violent.
I'd like to count that as a premonition for me talking about drivers falling over the edge of a bridge if racetracks had bridges, because we very nearly had that. He was a couple of centimeters off of tipping over that bridge if the hitboxes allowed it and falling back onto the racetrack. And if somebody was on a lap, then that would have been an interesting situation for the stewards room post-race of getting balked in your lap by a falling car. It's not the first time we've had it happen. A car's fallen on someone, but it's not a common occurrence.
I'm scared that it's not the first time. Luke Joyner comes across the finished qualifying session. He improves, but not enough to catch Nathan Higginson. So it will be, as I just realized that you haven't had game sounds that entire time, it will be Brendan Hobson from Brendan Foley from Brendan Ross as your first 3 in that qualifying session. Nathan Higginson starts from 4th. Luke Joyner and Braxton Stancliffe round out your RS class. Leading R class will be Tim Redmond. Then at Turmo, Benjamin Hall, Taipan, Steve Warwick, and Brian Walsh is your 12-car field. Perfectly split down the middle. 6 RS cars and 6 R classes cars. Turmo. Brody, what do you make of that qualifying session?
I didn't get a good chance really to study these cars in practice, and because it's been a while since we last raced around, I did race 2 weeks ago, but I was in the RS class car, so I wasn't really paying too much attention to things. I had the fun of starting at the back of the grid and passing, and weirdly enough, in an RS class car, I couldn't catch Redmond. But says more about me than it does him. Yeah, no, it's a really good session. I'm really happy for Higginson. He's been struggling with his cars big time all season. Even jumped in the R-Class car for a race or 2 last round just to try and see if, maybe that was what he was missing from it. But no, to be in 4th is quite good. I imagine, although on the other side of it, Luke Joyner's been on good on pace. So probably not so happy to be where he's sitting. Then looking down at the bottom class, some good gaps there between Tomo and Ben Hall, and they had a really good scrap at they've had just a really good scrap just generally in racing over the last couple of rounds, both with Super Series and the ARCs have been good on pace, and the TSA MX5 Cup have been pretty close as well. They're developing a good bit of friendly rivalry, so that will surely continue over tonight. And and then the only other thing that will split up your nice even pairing is hopefully we join at some point will be Luke Rosella.
Yeah, hopefully we get Luke Rosella back in. I think that'll certainly add to the battle in the RS class. I'm surprised by Ben Hall's pace. He's certainly found another lick of pace over the mid-season break. The triple B battle, Brendan, and Brenton. We have seen something that comes to the fore as well in RS class. So I'm interested to see how that one works out. And hopefully the likes of Steve Warwick and Taipan can find a bit of pace. So we've got another additional entry. Steve Bolger has just jumped into the service. So that's another entry in the R class, another one in the midst of a top 5 place in that championship. And Luke Rosella has made his way back as well. So that's 2 additional entries and maintaining the exactly 50% class split. I'm a liar now. It's Scott Nolan's jumped in as well. So that's another RS car. So we're just waiting for another R-Class car to come in and fill out the numbers.
Yeah,
Is Brock Harvey going to come join us tonight?
I suppose he should. His teammate is here. Although I think he did say he was going to be unavailable. Although, yeah, with where Rock's position, that'd be good. Obviously with both Warwick and Bolger here, to have a good battle there. Another one we get to see actually, if we're talking about the RS class car, just putting the word out. Pete Thrower, possibly Kempy. We get to see Kempy. Kempy and I are actually tied on points coming into this, although that's obviously going to change. Matt Cecil as well. I think he said he was out, but he's not far off points. As is Mike Coulston. There's a nice little battle pack there. So I don't know if Mike's available. I just more people. It's a really good track to race on Oran Park, and yeah, it just gives us the nice. I mean, we're not doing it for numbers. We're just doing it to get that nice balance of RS and R class cars. That's really what we're chasing here.
Absolutely, but unfortunately, I think the people who are watching the stream aren't going to be the people who we'd be expecting to be racing. I think all the people that you'd want to be racing are already here, unfortunately. So
yeah, with the exception of Glenn Miles, who I think he did also say that he couldn't make it tonight, but he is in the chat cheering on Tamo.
On your Miles, on your Glenn. Good to see people supporting everyone else and supporting each other. It is quite a nice thing. It's one of the good things about this little community. We are just waiting on the warm-up session. So what we'll do is we'll just have a look at the calendar. Just remind people of the calendar for the Super Series. And here we are. We missed out on Lakeside. That was, by all accounts, a very good night's racing. No penalties applied, which is very good to see always. What you want to see in that one. Next fortnight will be at Manfield, Circuit Chris Amon. I know that Kiwis are going to be very sad to be missing that one over on his end of the ditch. And then finishing off at Long Beach. That one in these cars is going to be certainly something.
It's going to be interesting, and there's some suggestion that it was intentionally placed at the back end of the calendar just to make sure that Rosella did more than one round of this series, because Rosella is very much partial towards Long Beach. But no, it's a different thing to throw Long Beach out there. And I think we sort of looked at the Super Series calendar and looked at tracks that we maybe want to run, tracks we haven't run before, or tracks we haven't run in a while. Lakeside, I hadn't actually seen a running until we'd run it in ATCC, and that was outside of some of the dramas with the tyre and the mod for that race. That was a really good race.
And some of the dramas with cars crashing and ending up perpendicular to the racing surface.
Yes, that too, and using the wrong pit exit. Looking at you, Kiwi Chris Riddell. No, so yeah, Lakeside, and I was there. That was just some really good racing, at least from my end, and I think most people enjoyed themselves. And then looking back towards the start of the calendar as well, Maloa, we've used I think once before. I think it was a TCR round. Wakefield, I don't think we've used before, and Lime Rock, if we have used it, wouldn't be for a long while as well. So it was really just a calendar for just trying something different as well. And yeah, Manfield will be good. We have raced there before. We did a Super 2 Summer Series race there, I believe. Not a regular. No, actually, sorry, it might have been the 2020 Super 2 Series we raced there. That was a really good race, outside of the fact that because of a quirk in the way that the files were named for the track, the replay didn't save. And that was a bummer, because we had a monumental pile from the first corner that we all were really keen to look back on and do a series review on, and because there's no replay, we had to just throw it out. Even though it was a really, it probably wouldn't have looked good from an advertising point of view of how good the series was, but it was a monumental stack up at the first corner. So, it'll be good to go back there again and see if we've learned a little bit from the last time we were there. And then, Long Beach, I think Boxer Cup, I think we might have gone there from memory.
Yes, indeed we did. That was round 2 of the Boxer Cup, if I recall correctly. Round 2 or round 1. It was certainly very early on. It was
fairly early on, but my experience with Long Beach, outside of that, has been Forza. So it's interesting to see Long Beach used in Automobilista.
Yeah, of course. One of the main tracks in the Forza Motorsport series. I've certainly had a few league races in my time at Forza at Long Beach. I think the Boxer Cup round there was, from, if I recall correctly, a really, really good race. One of the first proper nights we got to see the Turras come to the fore. I remember Hans Brunswick putting in a great performance at that round as well. And shout out to Hans if you're watching, if you're listening, and if you're not watching or listening, I'll take that shout out back.
I mean, if you're not watching or listening, you should be watching and listening because this is really good racing, and you can get in here and lead the Luke support train or the SSR support train. But yeah, no. So it's some really good round set to back out to fill out the back end of the calendar, and it should be some really good racing.
Yeah, I'm keen. I'm keen to get back into the broadcast. It's been a while since I've been in the box. I think since the Endurance Cup, I've been away from commentary for ASR, and especially away from broadcasting because the broadcasting stuff is not nearly as easy as people like Nether make it look, especially with all the things that he's got set up to make it all go super smoothly. It's always very funny going back and reviewing things on his streams versus going back and reviewing things on my streams and going, so that's how it's meant to be done.
I mean, you're doing better than me. I think the closest I've been to running a stream was a couple of the radio streams.
Yes,
the retros
before I knew how to set it up properly.
Yeah, and that was, I think the key point of that was a race at Hidden Valley where I had a 3-second lag spike in the middle because my internet was not liking doing two things at once, and I ended up merged inside Murrell as he came to, I think, lap me.
Brilliant.
And boy, was he frightened.
I remember another one that we did was at Londrina.
Sounds about right.
I think it was the rear-wheel drive TCAC series, which was a great race, a really good race. And it was a shame that we couldn't bring that one to pictures, but it was a good one to commentate on from a radio. But now we are here for this one, and it looks like the cars are just making their way onto the grid now. And here we are. So 16 laps around Oran Park. We've got 8 RS class machines, 7 R class machines, and it is sure to be a bit of a feisty one tonight. I think everyone's keen to get into it.
Yes, there'll be some really good races going on, and it'll be interesting to see where obviously the RS class cars are starting at the back, but where the R class cars are at the back as well, where they'll filter in as well. A bit of a lack of practice, obviously, for Steve Bolger, but he's running, I think, top 3, top 4 this season currently, so he's had some good pace. So he'll come up through the field and probably look for him to do maybe a little better starting with race 2 with that reverse grid. That'll help him out if he can't get through the field in the first race. And then, the other one, they've been put to the back of class, but Nolan's doing a cheeky. Okay. Nolan and Roselle are starting from the back of the RS class field.
Indeed, and here is the grid. Leading off the way is Brenton Hobson. He set a 13.5 at the end of that qualifying session to take pole position. Next to him is Brenton Foley, the only other man in the 13, so look for him to put a challenge up at the head of the field. Brendan Ross will start from 3rd place. He was a little bit further away, but still someone with pace to watch. Then it is Nathan Higginson in the Burson Auto Parts Higginson Media Engineering machine. Luke Joyner starts from 5th place, the MHRT Coca-Cola Racing machine, ahead of Braxton Stancliffe, who, remember, only got in the car about 10 minutes before the qualifying session got underway. So plenty of pace to come out from Braxton. As we made mention, Luke Rosella was in the practice server and then jumped out or got kicked out just as qualifying was starting. So he's started at the back of the grid alongside his SSR teammate Scott Nolan, R-Class roadie.
R-Class. Sorry, I was looking at something else for a second. So R-Class is going to be led by Tim Redmond out of 9th overall with Tomo sitting behind him in 10th in that Tomo Motorsport Monster Energy car. Ben Hall qualifying up in 3rd in class. He's set for a really good race, I reckon, with Taipan in 4th in the other Wild Class car. 5th in class is going to be Steve Warwick with Brian Walsh starting from 6th. And late entrant Steve Bolger for Go Race Racing in the electric blue machine, starting from that is 7th in class and 15th on the road.
15 cars, 8 in the top class, 7 in the secondary class, and it is going to be a wild start if I can get my camera into the right position to start it for us properly. Is that the right one? Who knows? What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to go to the front of the grid. Looked like a very difficult start for a bunch of drivers there creeping away, and it was a great start from Nathan Higginson, who's putting the sword to the Brendans right at the very top. But it's Hobbo who leads us into turn 1 as they all compress in and they try to find their way around. And Higginson's gone already. He's off on the grass. Stancliffe's off on the grass. Joyner's off on the grass. Rosella's around. It's carnage at turn 1, and the R-Class cars have managed to sneak their way through.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how as many survivors as I did there. That was, I can see that starting to brew already. It was Rosella running down to turn 1. Actually, no, it was Nolan running down to turn 1 with one of the other RS class cars hugging right to the inside. They were already getting defensive. I think it might have been Joyner. And then separately, Higginson losing the rear and Braxton as well. So Braxton's jumped down to the back of the field. Higginson actually rejoined in 6th of all that, which amazes me considering how out of shape he was. And yeah, outside of that, everyone looks pretty clean.
So it is the triple Brenton, and Brendan out the front. They've managed to escape the carnage. Joyner sits in 4th. Nolan's up 3 to 5th place. Higginson sits in 6th. Then it's Tim Redmond leading the R-Class with Turmo. And now it looks like that's Ben Hall on the outside. Taipan, Steve Warwick, Steve Bolger. He's got Braxton Stancliffe for company. Then that's Brian Walsh. That's the field as Stancliffe's looking to make his way through. Rosella was in the mix there. He's in 9th. He's still trying to find his way through the R-Class machines. He's down the inside of Turmo now at turn 2 as Ben Hall is all crossed up in the background. Just manages to keep it on the circuit. Lucky for him.
Yeah, it can be a tricky circuit and then run down to turn 1. You very much have to get the car out of a turning behaviour before then going to get on the brakes. And if you can't get that quite right, there's plenty of corners like that you need to separate the turning and the braking, and it's very hard to do with that approach from turn 1 into turn 2.
I've got eyes now on Scott Nolan trying to force his way down the inside of Luke Joyner. Very, very tough racing there from Nolan, as he's now jumped up into 4th place. Joyner didn't really have much in the way of road left for him on the outside, but he's managed to hold off the advances of Nathan Higginson, who was trying to sneak his way in behind. Yeah,
so this is now going to turn into a little battle between those two. I suspect Nolan's going to start to clear away, and he's got a long way to go to try and get in on the back of the top 3 battle. So the top 3 battle has split a little bit. Rossi's dropped back, so it is just Foley and Hobbo racing each other now. But he's got a little way to go. I think
he goes dive down the inside, and he's gone deep. He's gone very deep, and can Joyner affect the undercut? Oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be a drag race down towards turn 3. And
he's cleared him, but he's not quite covered off, so it's given Higginson the inside road. A bit of curb use there for Higginson to make sure he does it without contact, so they've just rubbed panels on the exit. He's not quite up there yet, but he should have him now with the long right-hander as we come up to the bridge. A bit more contact as he bounces off the curb. He's still not quite got that pass done. And
they're going to go side by side through 6. That's dangerous. And this is all
the thing they're doing is they're buying. Yeah, they're giving Rosella a chance to just at least buy in on Joyner. Big side-to-side contact between those two. And he's kind of boxing at this point with Joyner on his inside and Higo right in front. He's kind of got nowhere to go. He's going to try and make a move here into the flip-flop. Not really the place to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the track part there.
We're on board with Joyner now as he comes through the final corner. Higo goes very deep, so Joyner should be able to power down the main straight and clean up the Nathan Higginson machine as they come down the main straight. There's a little bit of an overlap now as they come down towards turn 1. Is there going to be enough overlap? Who's going to be braver on the brakes? Rosella goes way over the curb and is just going to pull that up. So
yeah, Higo looked like he was just running a little bit too wide for what he wanted, and he had to eventually pinch the brakes to get the thing to turn in. So that was, he looked like he'd run on the outside there, but in the end, not quite an option for him. So that puts Rosella through to 5th.
Back up the front though now, and it is Brenton Foley still on the hammer of Brendan Hobson out the front of the field. The gap is less than half a second as you can just see in the background. I think that was Steve Bolger and Ben Hall making moves on each other at turn 3. It's good to see that Foley hasn't let Hobbo just run away with it. He's really kept the SSR leader honest at this point of the race.
Exactly, and that's the crucial bit, and less so now with the tyre wear turned off, because I know Foley's driving style is perhaps a little bit more involves a little bit more tyre use than Hobson's traditionally does. But now with that not really a factor, at least for the early stage of the race, it means that Foley can keep battle with him, and it makes things a little more exciting for Hobbo. Yes, he's got that outright pace, but he is still making him earn his wins as they come to him. But no, he's still tucked up under that rear wing, and he's not any slower after a look at those last laps through.
In fact, Foley's the fastest man on the circuit. Last lap around, Hobbo 14.1 versus Foley a 13.8. So he's the only one to put in multiple laps in the 13 so far, as we've got 4 laps down and are on lap 5.
That said, why for Hobson? That said, his best lap was a 13.7, so they are actually pretty equal on pace. Hobson a little bit quicker, but Foley's benefiting from being up behind Hobson on the straights and just being able to sit in there in his mirrors and try and throw him off his game. And you know, Hobbo's been around a while. He's a very hard man to throw off his game. But yeah, if anyone's going to do it, and if there is any way to do it, it's just going to sit there, just lap under lap, just right under his rear wing, and just have him thinking about more than just what's in front of him.
Well, we use this analogy quite a fair bit. There are some drivers who are good followers and seem to come to the fore right when they're in the wheel tracks and trying to follow someone, as Nathan Higginson gets a drive-through penalty for track limits already, very early on for Higo. And then there's some people who are great leaders. They love having the clear track ahead of them. They can put everything behind them just to the side, and they can just run at a metronomic pace. We've got one of the best leaders in the business, and Brendan Hobson, out in front, and one of the best followers in the series, in Brendan Foley, sitting behind. So this is going to be a titanic battle between the pair of them.
Exactly. I mean, keeping up track with him is one thing. Trying to get a pass on has been another. It's a really good track, but you really need to have an obvious pace differential to make an easy pass around here. Otherwise, it involves setting up a move for a couple of corners, like we saw with Higginson trying to get past Luke Joyner a couple of laps ago. So Foley's just dropped back a little bit here, but his best pace is still pretty equivalent. So that doesn't mean that necessarily this is over yet. It just means maybe potentially he just needs a bit more airflow through the car to cool it down. He might be in a little bit warm, tucked right under Hobson's rear wing as he's just clapped the wall on the outside there. But I think this is a battle that should still be going on as
Hobbo sets the fastest lap. He's responded now. Last 2 laps for him have been in the 13s, and the 13.72 is the fastest lap of the race. We're going to leave this battle quickly and head down the field to see this battle. Steve Bolger versus Ben Hall. Now, Bolger has the position on Ben Hall. This is for second in the R class. But Ben's not letting the Bulge get away at the moment. He's looking to chuck a sneepy up on the inside of the flip-flop as they go into the final corner. Let's jump on board with Ben Hall and let's see what it looks like from the front of his car.
Yeah, so Ben had a fairly good start to this race, but he did drop back a little bit. Bulger started off the back of the field, but obviously he's got top 3, top 4 pace and has all season, so he's got to grips fairly quickly with the track. He's driving a good scrabble, and actually the way these two are going, they're going to buy buy a ticket for Tomo to get back into this as well. He's currently sitting behind them. He was 3 seconds back at one point, but these two, with this battle, they're having really good racing between the two of them, really clean, fair racing, making full use of the track to go too wide, and you know, it's sort of the racecraft you want to demonstrate to people, because I mean, they could be letting each other around here, but they're not. That said, though, they're not taking the fastest line around most of these corners when they're too wide, so Tomo's going to buy into this. It's going to be a 3-car battle.
Yeah, Tomo is only a second and a half behind as we come up over the bridge on board with Steve Bolger now on the bonnet cam. Looking at the car sliding over the turn 6. It feels like the track's falling away from you there as you stop going uphill and start coming back down. It's very evenly matched between these two. Bolger may be using a little too much curb that time around.
Yeah, and that's something to consider as well, is that, like, from memory, Bolger did actually race the last time we were here in ATCC from memory. But it's been a good year for most of the guys since they've last been here. And with Bolger's apparent or potential lack of practice, having not been in here until the warm-up session, He is still coming to grips with the finer elements of this track, whereas Ben's been in here for, I think, most of the practice session. Obviously, with the pace he's achieved in qualifying, shows he's got a good handle on this car around this track. And yeah, now we've got Tomo buying this. And the other car at the back of the train who is going to play a factor in this is Nathan Higginson.
Yeah, he goes, after taking that drive-through, he's still got a bit to go to get through this little pack. It's something that we see from Higo maybe one too many times, the drive limit, track limits drive-through penalty. So hopefully he can start to sort that out of his racing and start to not have to worry about coming through the field late on the race. It looks like Ben Hall has actually managed to drop Bolger just a little bit through this middle part of the race, and Tomo is actually as close to Bolger as Bolger is to Ben Hall at the moment.
Yeah, so last lap through, it was a 17.9 to an 18.3.
As Higginson gets another penalty. Death taxes and Higginson getting track limits penalties.
Yep, and because he's already got himself one, he's going to keep adding them up. Look, if the advantage of this track, I suppose, it's not a terribly long pit lane to cycle through. Look, if Higginson can keep it clean, it comes down to how you see things as well, your perception on it. But depending on where you sit, being in the RS car racing against the R-Class cars, and even when you're not confident around the corners, you've at least got the power to, make it interesting on the straights. It can be a bit of I suppose, an ego saver, not so much a booster, but it does at least preserve some sense of self-worth if we can go that deep with it. But at the same time, it can be you can feel a little, I'm in an RS car against R-Class cars. I can go 3 seconds a lap quicker and I'm struggling to pass these guys.
Yeah.
Which is the experience I had at Lakeside, where I'm just like, hey, I'm having a good race here.
Rosella's down the inside of Nolan into turn 1. These guys have made their way through the field, and Rosella scythed his way through quite nicely there. Got the high ground on the entry to turn 1, and then made that position stick through turn 2. Let's have a look on the onboard replay with Luke Rosella on the bonnet cam. See him just pull out of the slipstream, brake at the right point, go all the way over the curb, and then have the high ground into that corner. So well done for Rosella. He now sits in 4th place, just behind Brendan Ross. They've actually caught Brendan Ross quite quickly, this pair.
Yeah, he's now 16 seconds off the lead. I suspect Rossi's had come a cropper at some point there. He was not on the same pace as the leaders, but to have dropped 16 seconds in 10 laps suggests something somewhere along the line, because he was only, I think, a second slower than the top 2 in qualifying. But
he just hasn't been able to stay in he hasn't been able to get into the 13s, and he hasn't been able to stay in the 14s. So I think that's where the pace differentials come from. Last lap though for him was an 18 flat, so he must have had some sort of issue. He's falling into the clutches of the SSR train.
So he had decent pace. He did out-qualify. Well, actually, that's the thing. We can't actually say where he's like with these two outside of race pace, because neither of the two cars behind him qualified. So we can't go back to the qualifying pace to say, yes, he's quicker than them.
Exactly.
The only thing is he hasn't had to wear his tyres nearly as much. And yeah, with 1 times tyre wear, the tyre wear isn't as much of an issue. But to a point, fresh tyres are still better than used tyres. So he might have potentially an edge if he needs it. They have just caught Brian Walsh, who's doing a good job of letting the leaders through.
A bit of an awkward spot there on the entry to turn 6 over the bridge, but they managed to sneak through.
It was a bit of an awkward spot, but it's with the narrowness of this track, you're going to struggle. And Walsh did the best he could with what he was given. And Rosella now right up on the back of Brendan Ross.
It's very much right at the back. You might even have a dive into the final corner, might Luke Rosella. Not quite this time around, but we'll jump on board with him once again. Watch him come down the straight. Just a much better drive out of that final corner. Picked up the throttle so much earlier. Swings to the inside, and it looks like he's going to do exactly the same thing as he did to Nolan. There's a little bit of touching, a little bit. Rossi's chasing him over to the inside of the track. But we get to the braking zone, and Rosella scythes through. So that's another one in the Rosella's back pocket.
Yeah, he's just clearing through. And probably Rossi, as much with Nolan as well, recognising that Luke might have the faster car at this point, and that it might not be worth fighting him. Granted, it is towards the back end of the race, but if you're not there on pace, I mean, you can try. But yeah, so Still a good running from Rossi so far, sitting in fourth, and he's still got Nolan, who's possibly looking to come up past him. They've both just negotiated some lap traffic again in Steve Warwick, and yeah, looking at positions now, they're probably he's probably not quite far enough. They're probably about a distance. Oh, that said, that'll bite into him.
Oh, what happened there?
A big slide from Rossi on the way into the left-hander before the flip-flop. He kept it on track, but it was very much a Nathan Higginson style slide, so, as a way to put it, which is dropped him by about half a second and has put him right in range of Nolan, and speak of the devil, Higginson with another drive-through penalty.
The gap actually hasn't ballooned out. I was expecting it to balloon out a little bit, but Rossi's actually... Oh, there might be something wrong with Rosella's car, because he's slowing down quite remarkably down the straight.
I'm going to go back into the replay and just see if I can see something with that.
And Ross is through. Ross is back through at turn 1. It's a 3-car battle now for this position, as Ross and Rosella are absolutely chomping at each other, and Nolan's going to buy into this as well. Nolan goes down the inside of Rosella through turn 3. There's a bit of bump and grind there as they're plugged up behind Ross. Nolan's still on the inside. They haven't really managed to negotiate this all that nicely between the three of them as they come over the bridge.
The only thing I'd say, and knowing where some of these guys sit with each other, it might be, and you'll get, and I'm using this reference because you'll get it, Flighty, the way that the C-Class Le Mans Midgets guys raced at the back end of the season.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing some of that at the moment where, because these guys don't feel confident about being Catch, Foley and Hobson at this point 18 seconds and 23 seconds ahead respectively. And they're pretty comfortably ahead of Braxton Stancliffe, who's 46 seconds down, and then Higo, who's more than a lap down. They just want to have a really good race, and they're doing what they can to ensure that happens.
And speaking of having a really good race, this is another group that's having a really good race. It's Ben Hall and Termo, and they've just got the race leader making their way through to lap the pair of them. So we'll try and keep eyes on that as Nathan Higginson is around again. We've got two things to keep our eyes on here. Scott Nolan is in between Brendan Ross and his teammate Luke Rosella as they're coming up to lap Taipan through turn 4. Taipan does a great job of getting out of the way here.
No, he's done a really good job there, and it can be awkward when you've got a pack of 3 cars that are racing and there's guys coming up on you.
Nolan's through on Ross. He's made use of that traffic just to that just unsettled Ross. That actually might allow Luke Rosella through on Rossi as well, and it does.
Whoa. He's just got through a bit of contact. One of them or both of them nearly spun at some point there. And I trust that if they are doing what I think they're doing, that they're not going to go and put themselves backwards at any point because they can coordinate moves. But no, still some really good racing. And
actually, what we'll do is we'll actually have a look at the replay of that. We'll see if we can scroll it back just to see where it all kicked off. So we're back over the bridge. We're scrolling. So this is where Rossi just ran a little deep. He was a little distracted by the R-Class car and just ran a little deep. Nolan got a great run off of turn 4. Come up the hill, that position's already been made. But what that did do is that left the door open for Rosella to just fly through. And that he did, and he actually managed to squeeze in somehow between Nolan and Rossi. A little bit of contact in the mid-corner. They all run a little wide, but as it was, play on.
Oh, exactly, and that strategy of it is if you're both battling someone, and there's potential of regardless of anything I also said, the potential, I mean, the two SSI guys are teammates, so they're going to probably drive a bit, they'll drive together. The advantage of having a teammate is that your teammate can put a move up the inside to force the car you're racing into an alternative line, a slower line, and then leave them hanging out to dry while the second car, in this case, Rosella, can then slice up the inside as well. So good bit of teamwork between the two of them as well to both get past Rossi in, what was that, about 2 or 3 corners.
Last lap now for these guys and for the leaders. We're watching Termo versus Ben Hall quickly as they are in the final throes of their battle for R-Class second place. Ben Hall has ceded that position to Termo, but he hasn't let Termo get away just yet. And we'll just quickly touch on this battle between the two SSR guys and Brendan Ross. Rosella now to the head of that group as Rossi goes very deep under brakes, as does Nolan. They're going to go side by side in the exit of turn 2 as they go under the bridge. It's actually Nolan who's just ahead with the tune of 0.05 of a second. And Rossi throws the nose up on the inside. This is crazy stuff in the last stages of this race. But we're going to have to leave this in a moment to catch our race leader, who's coming through the final sector now. Brendan Hobson has been untroubled since the early attack of Brenton Foley. Will come out of the final corner and take another race win in the ASR Super Series. It is Brendan Hobson who takes the win.
Brilliant race there from Hobson. Yeah, second will be Brenton Foley for...
oh, and just coming to the line, it's Turmo versus Ben Hall, and Turmo gets it by a car length.
Oh, you're going to have a look at this battle for third, fourth, fifth, though. This is really tight. There were 2 wide, nearly 3 wide through the flip-flop. Nolan might have just got the run here, and it's going to be pretty close between Rossi and... No, an issue for... No, okay, he has made it to the line. So, Nolan third, Rossi fourth, Rosella fifth.
Whoa, really frantic stuff at the end in that one. Taipan will come across the line next. He's the first car a lap down. Steve Warwick being pushed over the line by Luke Joyner. That is 13th and 6th respectively. We should be waiting on Tim Redmond as the R-Class winner. And 14th place Brian Walsh to come across the line next. The pair of red Mitsubishis. 1 and 2. Great race in the end.
That was a pretty good race. The guys at the front had a little race on for a bit there, which is good to see, because it's I don't think it's even fun for the guys who are actually doing the leading of the race to sit there and win it just, start to finish. I imagine it can get a little bit boring. Obviously, we had that good battle there for the last step of the podium in the RS class, and then we had a good scrap there for second and third in the R class between initially Bolger and Ben Hall, and then later Turmo and Ben Hall.
Yeah, good, nice mix of names. It's great to see Ben Hall and the action that he's been able to put together, and the speed that he's been able to find in his machine. So well done to Ben on taking second place. I hope he's looking for a better result. Oh, not a better result. I think he's got the pace certainly to try and take it to Turmo and try and get the best of the rest win in Class R, which really should be just called Class Redmond.
Well, I mean, that's what the R stands for.
Yeah, indeed. Well done to Ben Hall. And that battle in the last throws of that race between Scott Nolan, Brendan Ross, and Luke Rosella, I thought Rosella had it finished all done and dusted for all money when he went through on Rossi down the main straight. But obviously something's gone awry in that machine, because he was a sitting duck the next few laps around.
Yeah, no, that was... Yeah, I can imagine that battle with the top three. Yeah, I can imagine where that went. I think it probably would have been a bit of combination factors maybe for Rossi, where once they got to that point, he was just like, let's make a race of this. But probably was pushing hard to try and keep up with Foley and Hobson, and then a little mistake somewhere. Obviously, we caught one of the laps where he backed off. Whether that was because he'd lost time, whether that was because he backed off because he needed, because he wanted to achieve that race, or whether that was the lap that he had an issue on that then he decided, right, now my best chance is for third, which in the end he ended up getting anyway. So, it's probably better than, I don't know. It was definitely a more exciting outcome for those three, the third, fourth, and fifth class cars than we possibly would have seen, because the pace that Nolan and Rosella had was probably a little bit better than Rossi's, but, as long as they're happy with the results of that race, we can't complain.
Absolutely. Definitely put on a good show for us as well. Braxton Stancliffe as well, just by the way, he finished 8th overall. This is after his little incident at the beginning of the race, so great to see him do a good job and finish just off the lead lap, unfortunately for Braxton. And we're just in the process of resetting the weekend, so we'll have race 2 with the reverse grid up fairly shortly. In the meantime, we're just going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with race 2 just after this. And welcome back to the Super Series, the ASR Super Series, round 6 at Oran Park Raceway. We are currently waiting for race 2 to get underway. Just reminded there will be a full reverse grid of the race 1 results. So it's split by class. So you'll see Brenton Hobson and Tim Redmond at the back of their respective fields, and Braxton Stancliffe and Nathan Higginson and Brian Walsh at the head of the field. How have you found the reverse grid races to be, Rhodey, a co-commentator Rhodey, Benjamin Rhodes? Have you enjoyed them as a concept, as a racer?
I do like them as a racer. Look, I've got to be honest and say that my 2 wins so far, if you discount the class victories in the Le Mans Midgets, my 2 victories, and I suppose the 2 victories under ASR, under the ASR umbrella, have come from reverse grid series, which being the mini challenge. And
yes.
I had decent pace, but not quite enough to win a race. But by finishing ahead of the guys that would win a race, finishing behind the guys that won the first race, I'd start ahead of them in the second race, avoid some chaos, which inevitably happens with reverse grid races. And then, went through and took a win. So I'm obviously a little biased towards them from that aspect. I do wish also, just because I'm a man of chaos. I was sitting here with Nathan Higginson, I think last week, discussing we should run a series using the Formula trucks. But no, it's I would like to see just a full reverse grid, just to spice things up, just to really make the RS guys earn their stripes.
That is chaos. That is proper chaos.
But even just within the class, it's good because it gives you a chance to battle against guys you normally wouldn't battle against. And the guys that are used to running around at the back, it gives them a chance to actually race and defend for position, which they don't always get. And it's an important learning step because the guys at the back, they can very well end up being the guys that race up the front with you. Case in point, Termo and Ben Hall were probably different ends of the bracket of the grid 12 months ago. Tomo has obviously gotten quicker since then, and he's now at the point where he's probably a bit too quick for Super 2. But even 12 months ago, Tomo was very comfortably mid to top of the mid-pack in Super 2, and Ben Hall was sitting sitting at my pace. And, anyone that's seen my racing, at least over the past 12 months, knows where that sits. But he started as one of those back-of-field drivers, and now he's up at the point where he's racing Tomo for position. So... and it's not so much that, and like Tomo's improved, Tomo's gotten quicker, but Ben's has gotten that much quicker. He's picked up the ball that much quicker. So it's good to have these reverse grids for the guys who normally are just starting and are at the back to have a chance to experience racing and to develop their racecraft in a bit more of a direct form outside of, say, a training night, which we've done on occasion, where you are actually out there specifically for the purpose of developing racecraft. But no, it's a really good format, and again, for those guys that haven't got the outright pace in a series but can avoid some of the chaos, and especially when you've got bigger grids like the minis where we have like 20 odd cars in one class, the reverse grid, especially if you have a really bad first race and you finish like say 12th, you start 8th, and the guys who won the race start 18th, 19th, 20th. They've got 10 more cars to pass than you do.
Yeah, and that's what.
So it's really good.
That's what this series was like in the very early rounds when we had those massive grids. It's a bit less so now. I quite like the way the Porsche Cup did it. The Boxer Cup did it last season, where we had the top 8 positions were reversed. So that meant that no matter how far up the field you were, it was always that top 8 that got swapped, which meant that for those battling in the mid pack, very occasionally they'd end up at the top of the next race. But for those who were winning races, they didn't have to go through the whole back of the field to get back on pace. And it meant that for someone commentating, someone watching, it meant that you could sort of gauge how far back someone would get back up the field in the next race based on how well they'd done the previous reverse grid races. Because there's a big difference between, say, reverse grid with a field of 7 cars versus a reverse grid with a field of 21 cars.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, it was better with the big grid numbers, but yeah, it's a really good thing. It can kind of misconstrue things a little bit from a points format thing, and especially if you're in a series which runs a weight handicap, it can throw you a curveball. I know we do both with the MX5 Cup series over in TSAC, and the way that we've decided to administer weight is it's top 3 for the round rather than top 3 for a given race.
Yeah.
And we run reverse grid format. We run a full reverse grid for both races, which it's really good to casual racing, and it gives you and I think we do a similar format with the ARCs as well. And it's really just good, fun, casual racing, and you're always gonna have someone to race when the grid's reversing every time, and you can have a bad race and that becomes a good race. So you'll normally end up with at least one good race from that night, as long as you know you don't get a couple of drivers had some bad luck and gotten tangled up fairly early in reverse grid racing, and that's the unfortunate things that happen with them. But no, generally just some really good racing. It just does detract a little bit. It can, some people can see it as manufactured racing, but I'm here to race, and it just gives you more racing, and that's the important bit. We should all here at the end of the day to have some fun.
Exactly, and that's part of what this series has been all about. The Super Series is about having some fun with some race cars and some race machines and some fun tracks as well. It's all been very punchy, very enjoyable. And speaking of punchy and enjoyable, it looks like we'll be moving forward to the race session very shortly, so we won't be too far away from that reverse grid race. Some notes from race 1, Rody. Anything that you picked out of race 1 that you'd like to us to focus on for the second and third races this evening, or you like the fans, the whole 4 people currently watching the stream to be focused on for the next race?
Well, of those 4 people, one of them is me on my other computer. So to the other 3 people that are watching the stream, I'm keen to see, now that Braxton's had a full race under his belt where his pace turns out, starting from effectively pole. Obviously he goes on pole, so he's starting from second. I'm keen to see. I'm interested to see like the pace that. Yeah, I'm interested to see how the first lap goes. Actually, first of all, to see how many survive turn 2. No, I think we just should have some really good racing on our hands again. And it'll be good to see where some of the guys, Steve Rorick's not been bad on pace. Neither really as Taipan, but they're starting second and third in the R class. So, I reckon they should have a good race as well.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see that battle between Ben Hall and Termo and Steve Bolger. I'm interested to see how that pans out as they move their way up the field, whether or not they can get up the field. I'm also interested to see whether or not Luke Rosella's better starting position enables him to take some sort of ascendancy at the front of the field. But we are just only moments away from having the answers to all those questions as the field rolls away for their formation lap, Brody.
Yeah, so starting from pole in this race is Nathan Higginson with typically Higginson aggressive tyre warming, which he can afford to do with a 1-time tyre wear in that AA machine. Starting from second will be Braxton Sandcliffe in the very bright purple and orange wildcard RS car, with Luke Joyner starting from third for MHRT Coca-Cola Racing. Starting from fourth is the first of the Synergy Sim Racing cars, the red one with Luke Rosella behind the wheel. And then fifth will be Brendan Ross for D2 Racing. Sixth is Scott Nolan, the second of the Synergy Sim Racing cars, the green one, with Brenton Foley in the livery that does work at mine, I believe is working at Oran, the Red Bull PBF race engineering machine, with Brenton Hobson starting from the back of the RS class field in the blue Synergy Sim Racing Lancer. In R class, it is Brian Walsh leading from pole in the Playboy-sponsored Wildcat machine. Steve Warwick starting from 10th in the Black Shores Lancer. Starting from 11th will be Taipan in the first of the 2 guest cars, with Steve Bolger starting out of 12th in the Gravel Rush Racing machine. 13th is Ben Hall for Lick McHugh Racing, with Taipan Termo starting out of 14th. And starting from the very back and with a bit of work to do, although it's not going to be too much of a challenge for him, I don't think, will be Tim Redmond in the second of the guest R cars.
And Tim, if you are watching / listening, it might be a chance for you here to try out the last to first with a pit stop challenge. So We did pose that to Tim earlier on in the season when he almost blitzed the RS class from the back of the field. So we'll see how that one goes. But it will be... Oh, as I've messed up my cameras once again. And we're ready for the race start. A few drivers rolling down the field.
I can see an issue here. I see a couple of guys looking like they're out of position. There might be a jump start in the least. One that's for Luke Joyner.
Luke Joyner, I think there might be a few more as well as they come down the main straight. Brendan Ross got a great start on the outside of the grid, as did Braxton Stancliffe on the front row. Braxton's going to lead into turn one as they find their way through.
3 or 4 wide behind him as well. Higo, a bit of a wobble there for Braxton. Higo's got through and then sent himself too deep. As has Hobbo, as has Rossi off the inside. So they got back to the back of the field now, joining Luke Joyner, who back out of his start. Rossi's still trouble. I think he came back in front of the R-Class cars, and he's going to have to drop right to the back to get back on track safely. I think it was Taipan who got dumped off the inside as well.
Bit of a messy flag briefly at that back corner. Brendan Ross is all the way down. Taipan as well, all the way down. So they've missed out. As it's Braxton Stancliffe who leads us away from Luke Rosella, Scott Nolan, Brendan Foley. Nathan Higginson dropped 4 positions off that race start. Brendan Hobson up 2. Luke Joyner down 4. And then this angry pack of R-Class cars led by Steve Warwick. Have a look at this one if you don't mind.
Oh, we've just missed it too. Luke Rosella trying to go up the inside of Braxton Stancliffe, made contact with him and did physics things, which ended up putting Rosella around. Speaking of an angry pack, we've now got one right up on the backside of Braxton. Nolan now leads that pack in second. Higginson had a massive dive in Foley's inside. Took his mirror off. Nolan's tagged the outside wall where it merges back in as a pit lane entry. So they're look like they're threatening to be 3 wide down here in turn 2.
There's a touch and Nolan's gone sailing through. Only just made contact with Braxton Stancliffe, but somehow he managed to pull that up and now leads the race. Braxton's going to drive down the inside as well to try and get back.
No, Higginson has dived though, and he's ended up putting Foley wide. This is the last lap of the Bathurst 1000 sort of stuff we're seeing right now. It's only a lap 2.
Higginson's on his roof! Oh, whoa, what a moment! He managed to tip that back down, but Higo lost quite a bit of time there.
That was way too much to go from Higginson, and I'm not surprised at all. I think it's the first time he rolled a car in the last 6 months.
Blimey, that was mighty close for Higo. He sits that car back down. He sits down in 6th place now. 5th place, or he's going to be 6th after that little wiggle. He's got Luke Rosella right on his tail. And they're going to go, Brendan Foley dives down the inside of Braxton Stancliffe, doesn't get it done. The over-under's on for Braxton. Surely a redress is in order, says Matt Cecil in the live chat. Not sure what for, is Hobbo's
I'm curious. There's probably a few things there that probably could do with a redress if we're really asking for one. You have to cite a specific incident, but definitely some very willing racing in the first few laps here.
And Nolan's gained a little bit of a gap now over Braxton Stancliffe. They make their way out under the bridge. Just going to stay with the bridge cam to watch Higginson and Luke Rosella. Then here's Brendan Ross, and it looks like Turbo sailed off in the background. That's the R-Class leader, and that means Tim Redmond's already in the lead of R-Class from Steve Warwick. Then it is Ben Hall, Steve Bolger, and Turbo. So that's a significant change in the Class R, but we're watching this RS battle between Braxton Stancliffe. He's acting as the cork in the bottle here with Brendan and Brenton behind him.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps this up, he's gonna get Nolan a win, which I don't know, probably won't help Hobson, but Hobson's got enough of a lead that he can afford to let Nolan have a win. But Foley's giving him the big hurry up. As is Hobbo's sitting there probably comparatively rather patiently, but I imagine he'd like to try and get something close to a perfect streak going as well. Try and get as many sort of triple crowns in each of the rounds that he's racing at that he can.
Big tag of the wall there for Stancliffe. And he's going to get past. We're on board with Foley now as we come down the main straight. He's got the inside run with Hobbo right in the wheel tracks. He's going to be ahead before the braking point. Tips it in. Gets the car settled. And Braxton's off in the background.
He's wide. I saw that
coming. And he's wide as well. And that means that Hobson's just been given 2 positions for the price of 1 here.
The rejoin from Braxton was a little bit aggressive as well. He nearly clattered into Rosella's draw, and these two have history because it was thanks to contact with Braxton. I don't think Braxton was at fault for anything, but thanks to contact with Braxton that Rosella got put sideways a couple of laps ago and ended up back where he's at. Ooh,
Oh,
yeah. All right. Okay.
that's a
I'm
penalty.
expecting, having seen something similar the last time we raced here with me and Lewis, I can imagine what just came out of Higginson's mouth. But Braxton pushing him onto the grass has given Higginson his last track cut, so he's now got a drive-through penalty.
And it's only lap 4, so that's so many track cuts early on in the race.
He's been pushing hard, Higginson, and we saw this in the last race, but to have that last one triggered, yeah, it's his own fault for getting to the point where he was going to get that triggered, but I imagine Braxton is not his favourite person at the moment for giving him that last track cut, and it's still very willing racing.
And Higo dives into the pits.
Braxton nearly clattered the pit wall too because he was just trying to get as much slipstream off him and probably didn't realise that Higginson was going to pit this lap, so he nearly clattered the wall, as did Rossi. What is this? What is... I don't know. What have these guys been drinking in between the last race and this?
They've been drinking that classic reverse grid malarkey as we're just catching a replay of Braxton Stancliffe sailing off into the sand. He managed to catch that one before the wall, so he's in 6th. Got eyes now on Turmo and Ben Hall. These guys are resuming their battle from the first race this evening. Ben Hall ahead of Turmo this time around. The gap is barely anything, less than half a second, as Higo gets another penalty immediately after serving his first.
It's going to be a long race for Higo again.
Yeah, once again.
Yeah, no, it's a really good battle. And for Ben's sake, I hope he can hold station here a little better. Definitely make Turmo wet for it, because if he does, it gives a chance for a couple of cars behind to bind to this one. Both Steve's, Warwick and Bolger are battling behind. And if they put their heads down and focus for a little bit and run a race for the betterment of themselves, they'll catch this battle pack in a lap or two. And there can be a 4-car battle for 8th on the road, rather than 2 battles, one for 8th and one for 10th.
We just saw a flash up in the bottom corner, fastest lap of the race, Brendan Hobson, a 14.1, so not quite the outright pace we saw in race 1, but he has cut that gap down from multiple seconds, I believe, to less than 1, as we're just catching Luke Rosella and Brendan Foley side by side into turn 3 and 4. But this is the battle that we wanted to look at, and it's already gone the other ways. Scott Nolan's already ceded that position to Brendan Hobson, and Hobbo's out in the lead of the race.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Did it?
No, it was a little wide at turn 2, but only caught the exit. I'm not sure whether he's pulled wide to let him through, whether he just overcooked it a little bit himself. I suspect the way those two raced, that they would have, even his teammates, that no one would have made Hobbo earn that one. But now, yeah, the best battle we've got is for the remaining step of the podium.
Whoa!
And Rossi!
Whoa, how did he catch that?
That was worse than he did in the first race. I don't, like, if someone was behind him, he would end up with a car in his door. He's going to have another crack at this, though, because these two are battling pretty hard in front of him. Foley's still got the lead over Rosella. Rosella's going to have a whole head of steam up behind him. They've all been cheeky buggers with that merge into the pit wall. I don't know whether he was just trying to use that as an opportunity to shake Rosella or just put him off his game. They're passing Higginson, entering the lane for the second time for a drive-through. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it wasn't like race 1 was boring, but this has gone the other way.
This is, hey, you might not have seen this from the driver's seat, but this is what all of the reverse grid races have been like from the commentary box. Plenty of action and embarrassment of action to try and keep up with. That gap at the front, by the way, is already at 0.7 of a second, so this is the closest battle in the RS class. Ben Hall and Turmo are separated by a second at the moment. Hall just nipping away a little bit. But the battle between the Steves, let's go check out the battle between the Steves, because they're side by side coming out of turn 2. Look at that.
Yeah, so Bolger trying to put his nose down the inside, coming out of the corner. Steve Warwick run a little wide. I'm going to go Steven Stoive. Stoive is Bolger. Stoive, yeah, I don't know where that started, but it's been his nickname for a little while. Just to make it, also make it easy to tell them apart.
With Stoive has become over the bridge. He's gonna no. There's no room to pass on the inside. No,
he had to be further up alongside to command that one, and Warwick came across his nose, all perfectly fair though, just taking the racing line, and he's going to hold off Stoive for a little bit longer here. But as I said, if they can put their head down and stop battling, they could catch the battle in front, which is currently at about a second.
It's 6 seconds up the road now. It was a second for only a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It was a second between the two cars. But yeah, they're only a second away. They're in the back of shot. And these guys having a monumental squabble over 10th, which, you know, they've got the pace. So I think the both of them could go have a monumental squabble over 8th. But, you know, as long as they're enjoying themselves, I'm not going to tell them wrong.
Let's stay on board with Stoive as we come down the main straight. He's getting chased over the inside, and Warwick's gone deep. Warwick's gone very deep. No longer on board with Steve anymore because we're watching Warwick off in the gravel, and that's all she wrote. So that battle has gone the way of Bulger as Warwick extricates himself from the gravel and gets back on track.
And Warwick was being very courteous. He was making sure he left him room, but he left him an abundance of room, much too much room in the end, which is why he ended up out there. You can go too wide through there. Does require something on the inside to hug the curb, which Stoive did. And then, I think Steve, I could have made it through that too wide, but Steve, just an abundance of courteousness, which is very much his driving style of Mr. Warwick. And, hopefully that battle will resume in the later stages of this race.
We'll cycle our way back up the field and have a look at Brenton Foley versus Luke Rosella. This is the battle to determine whether or not it will be a Synergy Sim Racing 1, 2, 3, a full Synergy Sim Racing podium. And it looks like Rosella's got a head of steam now because he's looking all over the rear of that Foley Mitsubishi as they come over the bridge.
Yeah, look, I'm surprised a little bit because Foley had the pace to at least keep with Hobson in the early stages of that last race. And even at the back end, he was still much closer to Hobson than he was to third place. Granted, maybe the third place pace wasn't raw indicative of what we'd like to think it would have been. But he's having to work pretty hard to keep Rosella behind. Rosella obviously a big head of steam on him, and he's trying to re-establish himself after issues in the first couple of laps, even though the cars involved in that are no longer in this battle. That being Braxton Sankler, who's down in 6th currently. But these guys are struggling pretty hard. I'm confident that he's got the pace, but he's currently travelling a second slower than his best, Brenton Foley. And him working this hard, not only just with the pace he's doing, but keeping Rosella behind, is meaning that slowly, sorry, I had to go and say it. As I said last time, as Rossi was buying into the battle, he had a spin and he pulled the handbrake into turn 2 that lap through and went sliding into the sand.
Classic. So, let's have a replay of that one.
You probably won't catch this battle, but still a good battle. But that was a monumental slide.
Yeah, 2 wheels off in the grass and at the exit of turn 1, and that was the full slide into turn 2. So not ideal for Rossi. So he's dropped down. He was 3 seconds away. He's now 8 seconds away, 9 seconds away from this battle. So quite a fair way in arrears. I guess it's one of those things that when you are embroiled in a battle with someone, you kind of lose your normal pace. As Rosella takes a very liberal interpretation of the track limits through the flip-flop. And if he makes a move here, I would raise that towards the stewards.
I would too.
Track extending.
He has to have got a track cut doing that, surely.
And he did, in fact, get a track cut for doing that. But even still, even if he makes a move into turn 1, which he's trying to do here, trying to angle for a move into turn 1, I'd say that he still gained too much of an advantage in that instance. But it looks like he's just slotted in behind. And as we have 6 laps left in this race, the opportunities for Rosella to make that move are becoming smaller and smaller as each lap goes by.
I mean, if we're going to penalise him anything, we could penalise him for conduct unbecoming and just bring the sport into disrepute by absolutely destroying one of the Endurance Chat media banners.
Right? What?
And when you've got to support the broadcast partner at the very least. So that at the very least, surely we can ping him for that.
Absolutely. It'd be like it was at Brody Kostecki on the weekend of the supercars breaking all those polystyrene signs. Admittedly in avoidance of someone who was on a slow lap, but looks like this pair is just on the tail of Brian Walsh to put him a lap down. Walshy just takes to the inside of the circuit. It's a bit awkward here for Foley. Not really where he wanted Walshy to be, but Walshy stays to the inside, which is much nicer than what could have been the alternative. And they power on through. The gap here now is actually extended a little bit. It's just over half a second. So not quite the largest gap, but not quite the smallest one either.
Yeah, Tyrway. Oh, actually, this is about to get exciting because Nolan's ran himself wide at turn 2.
Oh, here we go. So it might be a battle in 3 once again. Remember, Nolan was out leading this race for quite a long period of time. And that's thrown away quite a bit of his gap as Taipan gets a drive-through penalty now.
Bummer. He won't be happy.
I don't think anyone is happy to drive through.
True. You make a very valid point there.
I want to leave this battle and go check out what's happening between Ben Hall and Turmo once again, but I'm scared as soon as I leave it that we're going to...
Tell you what, I'll keep an eye on it and I'll shout out if it gets exciting.
I like the sound of that. We've just still got eyes on Nolan, Foley, and Rosella. The gap between Nolan and this battling pair is just on a second, so it's certainly come down quite a fair bit compared to what it was prior. In fact, Rosella set the fastest first sector of the race this current lap, as Taipan just scoots out into the pit lane ahead of them. So 4 seconds lost by Nolan that time around, and that gap is getting closer and closer. We will just have a quick sneaky peek at the Ben Hall Turbo battle while we've got a moment. And it looks like we picked a good time as well, because Hall just ran all the way over the curb there. And that's actually shortened Turmo's gap quite significantly. So Turmo's right on the tail now. It's 0.3 of a second, Rody.
Yeah, as I said, Ben's got some good pace, and he's had some good pace tonight, but he's more of a follower than a leader, at least from what I've experienced with him as a driver. And so him having to hit on his mirrors is probably just diverting too much of his attention from his driving to what he'd prefer it to be. That's it. He's got a good run at that last corner. He's managed to extend that gap a little bit more. Still got 3 laps to go, although they're probably not too far off of being lapped. So this might be a 2-lap to go race for these two. I'm not entirely sure as of yet.
It was last time around, so quite possibly could again.
Very somewhat ginger for the pair of them down into turn 2. I suppose that many guys have run wide trying to be a bit aggressive there. They've got through there safely, but it's just simply holding stations for these two. Although it does look pretty exciting up in second.
Yeah, so we're going to go back up to second, third, and fourth, because that gap now is less than a second between all 3 of them, and Foley's right on the tail of Nolan this time as they go through. We'll jump on board with Foley and see with Rosella diving out of the rearview mirrors. He's in a Synergy Sim sandwich here as they come through turn 3. No room ahead of him and no room behind him. So it's very tight stuff as they are in the middle part of this penultimate lap. There's a touch there between Foley and Nolan. Just a bit of nose-to-tail contact coming up the hill. That's given Nolan just a bit of breathing room. And can Foley use this breathing room to mount an attack and fly through on the inside somewhere?
I don't want to try and lean in or suggest anything, but we are seeing an SSR car back a non-SSR car up into another SSR car as Rossi gets himself a drive-through. Although that said, Nolan is now pulling away again, so I'm not sure whether maybe that idea of an SSR 1, 2, 3 is playing factors into this, or whether it was just an honest mistake. A bit of a walk out of there for Foley is going to give Rosella a bit of a leg up down the straight.
And it's actually stretched the gap out in front to almost a full second. And Rosella will tuck out to the inside. Not quite enough room. Not quite close enough this time. So he tucks back in. Oh, Foley, just a wheel on the grass. And he manages to catch it. I saw it happening as he just put a wheel off the grass. Now he's gone ultra defensive into turn 3. Rosella's looking for a way past, but Foley's closed the door. Closed every single door. Locked it shut. And closed the blinds as well, and that's actually managed to save him just for the moment. We're on the penultimate lap here in the RS class, and that is a little bit of traffic just ahead in the form of Steve Warwick as well, so this can get very complex very quickly for this group.
Yeah, Nolan might be alright unless he catches him in the bad spot, which is going to back him up in the direction of the 2 behind. You might actually catch him at the flip-flop, which is going to be interesting. He is actually going to catch him at the flip-flop. But he does get through. Steve Warwick coming off on the brakes, letting them through. But he has ended up walking. He has balked Foley a little there, and probably balked Rosella quite a bit.
Let's go on board with. We'll quickly do this. We'll go on board with Warwick, and we'll watch that from on board on the replay. So you can see in the rearview mirror here the 2 cars fanning out behind him. Foley goes to the inside. Rosella tries to go to the other inside, but there was just no room because Warwick was already committed to letting them go around what became the outside. So unfortunate for Rosella that he just got balked there at the wrong moment, and that put paid to his challenge for 3rd place. But out in front, it has been this man once he made his way through the pack and found his way to the rear of his teammate. It was no looking back for Brenton Hobson coming through the final section of track. He might even grab Luke Joyner and put a lap on him in the latter stages. Or maybe not, as we come into the last sector. But once again, it's been a stellar drive from Brendan Foley.
From
Brendan Hobson,
yes,
rather.
Brendan Hobson, yes.
I mean, it's also been a stellar drive from Brendan Foley, to be fair, but it's been an extra stellar drive from Brendan Hobson.
Yeah, he had to clear through the field, but luckily with him, he sort of parred in those first couple of corners of the first lap. But he's still been made to earn it. Or we've got to pass on, or he might get through. That was a bit of a cheeky dive. I think that was probably fair at the same time, but Foley, no, I think he might be redressing that. So Foley finishing third, Nolan in second. Rossi came in the picture there as well at the end of lap traffic, and Rosella squiggling down the road ended up in fourth and nearly took out Rossi on the way through. The next battle to look at is Ben Hall and Termo.
So Braxton Stancliffe will probably come across the line to finish fifth. Tim Redmond leads sixth.
Oh, no!
What happened there? Oh, no.
That's going to be a penalty for Rossi. I'm calling that now.
So we're going to watch from Termo, because this is what we saw from the broadcast view. Coming up the hill, it looks like Ross has come up the side of the bridge and taken out an active car.
Yeah,
oh, no.
And I'd expect, like, regardless of whether Termo reports that's broadcast reviewable, that was pretty. I'm gonna be blunt. That was pretty silly from Rossi. Granted, he probably didn't expect that he'd be able to get to the racing surface from there, in a way. But at the same time, no, that you don't do that, because it was on the edge of it. But that could have been a really good battle towards the end. In the end, what's actually done for it's Luke Jones dropped back, I think, in the end. But that was going to be a good battle at the end there between Termo and Van Hall. They're only about a second apart. And then the rising 444 orange and black car put paid to that. And Termo ended up finishing 11 seconds down on Van Hall. So he's lost 10 seconds in that. And we can't do a what if as to say that would have been a battle. But, either way, that was probably not the right move.
No, indeed. Luckily, Termo didn't lose any positions in class because of that, so there's not really a marked extension or a marked result or consequence of that. But that is just a quick lesson in making sure that you don't ruin someone else's race after your race is finished. Just to finish off on those results, Luke Joyner finished in 8th place. Behind Ben Hall, who finished second in Class R behind Tim Redmond. Termo finished third in Class. Steve Bolger, Brendan Ross, after his drive-through penalty, finished down in 11th overall. Steve Warwick finished 12th. Brian Walsh, 13th. Nathan Higginson taking a trip through the pond in 14th. And Taipan was the last classified finisher after a drive-through penalty himself. So plenty to talk about at the very end of that race. Quite a thrilling finish in both classes. What do you make of that one?
Definitely a thrilling finish in the RS class. One that probably went begging for the R class guys. But no, just like generally that was some really good racing. And for respect to Foley, like that move, I didn't see enough for it coming up to see whether that was a bit desperate or whether he went for a move or whether maybe he got turned down on or how that played out. But he made the adjudication. Obviously, he could see pretty clearly what he had done at the very least in that instance. He could have had a pass there for second, but he decided, no, whatever it wasn't the way he wanted to do it. So he backed off and finished third, but still a really good race there at the back end, and especially in the first in the middle stage between Foley and Rosella, with then Nolan coming into that as well. And yeah, we saw bits of it at one point in time. Bolger and Warwick having a good battle. Rossi kept trying to get in on that battle for the RS guys and just kept lucking out. And yeah, we had it for a bit, and then it went away, and then it wasn't going to come back. Potentially was the battle with Termo and Ben Hall, but at least we know those guys are on pace with each other, so there's a good chance we'll see something again in the third race.
And of course, the third race is a full progressive grid. That means the likes of Brendan Ross and Nathan Higginson and Luke Joyner will be starting in the midst of the lower class car. That drive-through penalty for Brendan Ross is really going to trouble him for this third race.
Yeah, if there's a race to have a bad race on in a reverse grid format night, it needs to be the one before the reverse grid.
Yeah,
Coming
absolutely.
to a progressive grid, or like it's even worse than a race where you can go and qualify again because you are stuck with it. There's no way to fix it. You've got to take. You've just got to grin and bear it. So this is going to be I mean, it's the same length for everyone else, but it's going to be a long race, I think, for where Rossi's sitting. A couple of other guys as well in the RS class that are out of position. They're going to have to get through the R class cleanly, and then make of the rest of the race what they can.
Yeah, so Luke Joyner will be one of those guys who needs to come through the field, as will Nathan Higginson. So hopefully Higo, in his adventures trying to move up the field, doesn't find himself off track too often. We saw him take one or two drive-through penalties for his troubles. Apart from that, though, the Synergy Sim battery at the front of the field, they have absolutely not lost anything over their little break from the Super Series, or rather the Super Series little break. They're still as terrifying and scary as they were in the first half of the season, aren't they?
Yeah, sorry, I just thought Tabin was checking some other news. I'll be honest, run that one past me again.
Synergy Sim Racing, still scary.
Yes, yeah. No, that as long as they can bring the numbers, they always have been. The only series they've been running in with any sort of decent force that they haven't actually shown this sort of imposing presence in is the supercars, just simply because Nolan's been a bit spotty on his appearances. But no, like they've been having, granted, they've been having an influence as a team here since before we were both here. But even if we go back to the very early days of our commentary experience, and especially of your commentary experience, even then they were a team not to be trifled with. So it makes sense. They're being helped a little bit here in that I think they're the only. They might be the only two-car team in the RS. No, sorry, they're not the only. Rossi and Dwayne Davies are also a two-car team from memory. But they're
ERT
one of,
as well. But
yes,
they
and
haven't been
ERT,
racing.
but they've kind of disappeared. So it was going to be, especially from those other season, which is two teams there. It was going to be challenging for anyone else to beat SSR on a teams basis. And I think everyone was very lucky that the number of teams are so few that we're not really tracking the teams' points. Yeah, no, as a team, they're just really good. What sort of helped them as well is they've sort of I wouldn't say they've sort of bought speed, but with obviously having Hobbo and Nolan on board, and then drafting in Rosella at the back end of the year, at the start of this year. That just helps to round out that field, because historically it had been three drivers. It had been those two and Damien Rasmussen, but we haven't seen much of Rasmussen since, I think, ATCC. So it's good to have Rosella for their sake to have a third driver again. Something I will actually add that I've just seen pop up in the server as well. We do have a 15th driver. Braxton will be stepping out, but we do have one Netherelmian jumping in one of the R-Class cars for the third race.
Wow, that is quite a ringer in that instance. Netherelmian, of course, Steve DeVries, the runner of Outward Broadcasting, someone who has done a lot of work in keeping ASR ticking over in all the broadcasts, and you can catch all of the supercars and the GT3 and everything else that basically ASR does over on the Outward Broadcasting channel. It's good to see him jump in behind the wheel. He's been competing in the iRacing Formula V Championship, or
I believe it's the iRacing Formula V Australian Series.
Yep.
Which he races on Super Series nights now, which is why.
Why he hasn't been doing Super Series?
No, he just hasn't been around. He would have been in commentary tonight had he not been racing, but he's running that now because he commentates with the V's in Victoria. No, it'd be really good to see him out in the field again. And I'm halfway through a biscuit. But he's actually uniquely qualified somewhat for tonight because the race he was doing with the V's early tonight is also at Oran Park.
Yeah,
so he hasn't had track time in these cars or anything at any point this season. He might have run, I think, one race maybe, but he knows the track.
absolutely.
So, be good.
So so that'll be a good addition for the night, as it looks like we're getting ready for race 3. They've just ticked over the second warm-up session, and we'll hopefully be ready for the third race. Just a quick reminder of the race format. It is a progressive grid from race 2, another 16 laps, which will be another 20 minutes in the books. We've seen a lot of action, particularly at turn 1 and 2, for cars running wide off in the sand trap, and especially on that first lap, that's very much a pinch point. Then also through the flip-flop, we saw Steve Warwick inadvertently become a challenge for the leading group of cars when they approached him just at the wrong time. Really didn't have anywhere to go, and unfortunately balked Luke Rosella quite badly, and enabled Brenton Foley to just step away just a little bit and maintain his third place. So they've been the action zone so far tonight. And of course, we saw right at the very end, Brendan Ross clip through the wall. Apparently, on his screen, he's saying that he hit the wall head on. But on our screen, certainly, and also for Turmo, it looked like it clipped through and actually damaged Turmo's steering late on the piece. So a lesson learned there. And as you can hear, there's cars back on circuit for the warm-up. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly jump in on the warm-up and see if we can find this man, Netherrealmian, driving in the GNev Racing, so Gary Neville's machine. I think that's the first time we've seen that out this season.
There are a few liveries that, for one reason or another, we haven't seen a lot of. I know Gary from Memory Races from the UK, which makes things a bit interesting. So he's running from a same time zone as Mike Coulston at the moment. And he's just had issues rocking up. He did sign up for the MX-5s, but sort of announced that he wouldn't be able to race after the first couple of rounds, which is a shame. It's a shame we don't see more of Gary, because he's a good person to have around. He's a really good racer, but it's interesting because I never actually, I think I looked through the results at the start of the season, but never actually, if I did, I didn't see this car because I don't remember seeing it. But no, he's done a good job with the livery, whether it's something he's painted or whether potentially, I know Gary's raced with Rossi before, so whether he's had Rossi do the livery for him, I'm not sure, but pretty good looking livery. And yeah, good to see it finally get run. And there's a couple of liveries out there that we don't see a lot of, so it's good to see them getting used.
Yeah, it's good to see Nether behind the wheel as well. In fact, he's the only one out on circuit at the minute, as everyone else just waits for the... actually, no, it's a lie. We've got a few other cars out on circuit. Steve Warwick and Brendan Hobson. Of course, Brendan not ever wanting to give up some track time. So let's just watch Nether. Let's give him the air as we just watch him putt around the circuit ahead of race 3. He'll be starting from the very back, of course, so he'll have a fair bit of work to do. And a bit more work if he's going to be driving like that.
I mean, to be fair, as we said, he's got track experience, not car experience. These things weigh 3 times more than the cars that he's been driving. These have a minimum race weight of, depends on the tyre as well, but when I was racing, it was in the region of 500 to 515 kilos. These things are probably, I wouldn't say they're quite 1.5, they're probably at least 1.2, so they're probably at least double the weight. They've got more power, probably about double the power, but the weight is what makes them, the weight's the bigger impact on the performance than the power. He was actually looking at the times, the Vs around here actually aren't too far off the R-Class cars in terms of lap time, and just because of the way they generate their lap time. So, yeah, for instance, he's 121. That's I didn't actually have the times up. That's
that is slower than Brian Walsh.
But that is his first lap.
That is his first
cool.
flying lap. So,
and he's and he's finding out the fun of this Oran Park is you have to stay on the track at the exit turn 1, or you will in some form or another die. We saw Rossi do that in the second race.
And of course, the track has been scrubbed effectively as well
That's
between,
true, yeah.
between
So
races.
he's going to have, it's going to be even playing field, obviously, but he's got very little grip to work with, a very little inherent grip. So he's having to make his own grip, as it were.
And that's probably why I made mention in the first race that the top drivers, Brendan Hobson, Scott Nolan, they were sitting in the 14s. It took them a long time to get into the 13s, probably because of the fact that the rubber had been reset, so the track usage had been reset, so there wasn't actually all that much grip out in the circuit. So interesting little battle pack forming in the background. It's just you can see
There is, actually, yeah.
Taipan, Steve Warwick, and Brendan Hobson sorting their way through.
Well, not sorting another place to get big battles like this, but
Whoa, that was a hairy moment. Taipan electing to take the shortcut to get out of the way of Hobbo.
oh, and very nearly got into the side of Warwick as well.
Save it for the race, lads.
Well, yeah, from memory, you can't get stung for too much in a warm-up session, but you don't want to go and risk things either way. Not that Taipan was doing anything wrong there, and I mean, it's a warm-up session. Hobbo can wait a corner or two to get past these guys, but I don't know. I suppose it's a good thing for the R class guys experience. There are going to be a couple of RS guys who start amongst their pack. I mean, obviously it's not the first round of this. There's now the 6th round that this has happened. But, you know, more practice is... There's a saying that I was going to use, and I can't remember what it is. So I'm saying more practice is better. But it just doesn't sound as good as whatever was in my head. But, no, it's just good experience to just be around the... for both ways, for the RS guys, be around the R class guys, because it will happen occasionally.
And it looks like they've just cycled over, so we should be ready to go for a race session any tick of the clock.
Nope.
Oh, that was a restart warm-up. Cause apparently, there's a few little issues.
Yeah, I've just looking back at the chat, actually. A couple of guys... so no one's having connection issues, it would seem. Or some issues of some sort, and apparently even in the 6th round, and I don't blame them, because to be fair, we were in the 9th round of Super 2 last Friday, and I couldn't remember what half the format was, because it's been that long since we last raced it. A couple of guys not quite sure on how the race grid starts, but yeah, it is going to be full progressive, which is what it's been the whole time. That's all right. Gives us a few more minutes to waffle and lets me finish my last biscuit.
Oh, I need to get a glass of water though, so I'm less thrilled about that.
You can go do that, and I will have my biscuit, and I can tell you all about why Monte Carlos are the best ice cream biscuit.
Oh, that is definitely a lie. Okay, so is this going to happen? Is this what's going to happen now?
I was trying to remember whether you were around for the time that ARW had this discussion. It turned into a poll that was shared on Facebook to about 100 different people to get a definitive result. And the definitive result in the end was that the Monte Carlos were the best ice cream biscuit.
Which one has the chocolate filling?
Kingston, I think.
Yeah, no, Kingston's the better one. Screw Monte Carlos. They have fruit filling in them. It's gross. I think the shortbread cream is my favorite of the
shortbread cream. Yeah, shortbread cream are a good option, and just the shortbread. Like they're good. They're good. They're not like a plain flavor, but they're a bit more vanilla, so they can work a little better with drinks.
This is true, but objectively, the best biscuit to work with drinks is Tim Tam, and
I'd say it depends on the drink. To be fair, I'm enjoying them with a cold Milo. With a warm Milo, though, it just starts melting the thing.
Exactly.
I don't know. I kind of enjoy the separation of the biscuit to the drink.
But a cup of tea, right? A cup of tea, it works best with plain biscuits or Tim Tams. Because then you can do a Tim Tam slam and it melts all the inside of the Tim Tam all very nicely, and it's all such a wholesome experience. True.
To be fair, it had been, I think it was about the same time we had this discussion in ARW about Tim Tam slams, or I forget whether that's what we call them over here or not. But as it turns out, I hadn't had one before.
Oh my gosh,
I wasn't the only one. A couple of the guys in ARW hadn't had one before, so that was a good opportunity for us all to try one for the first time. And I've done it a couple of times.
I know that Matty Dunlop, in the finale of the BTCC streams on ARW last year, very very humorously put together a package of him trying a Tim Tam Slam. It was the worst technique I've ever seen anyone do a Tim Tam Slam with. Served it in a martini glass, no milk in his hot chocolate. Oh, it was an absolute travesty. And if you are watching this, Matty Dunlop, and you may get referred to this, I am calling you out specifically. I'm not pulling any punches here. That was atrocious. But we love you anyway.
But I'll say I will round that out with a more wholesome note by saying congrats to Matt, who is a friend of the channel. We haven't actually, I don't think he's done anything with TSAC or Goons Chat Media, but we both know him. He recently got a job with Cricket Australia.
Oh yes, of course.
For their production stuff, which makes sense because he's been involved with stuff for a while. Not only the commentary side, but he did a lot of production work for. It was the 944 Cup in Victoria that he did some commentary and production work for over the last couple of years. Obviously, he's had to put that on hold with a lot of community sport being a bit of a no-go over the last 18 months, which racing is included in. But no, he's now working with Cricket Australia in their media department, which is,
cool.
It is bloody cool. It just means we might see a bit less of him in commentary, which is a shame because he is very well articulated with the commentary side of things. But I think it's just ARW that gets to see the most of him at the moment. But no, if he is watching that and you've just seen us bag out your well-produced video of an absolutely shit attempt of a Tim Tam Slam, congrats on the new job. Yes.
We'll round it out for a nice wholesome moment. We are still waiting on things to finish up. Looks like Ben.
We're missing Ben Hall. Yep, we're missing Ben. No, he's
in the server, but Redmond is saying that Ben is missing.
He's here, but he's what it will be that he has had a lag out at some point. Oh no, sorry, him missing. Sorry, to be fair, he might just have walked away from the computer. That might be his missing. But it can happen where it shows you as in the game, but you're not actually in the game, where you've lagged on your end, but the game still has you at the server end.
Yeah.
So you end up with a position where there's two of you in the server.
Like me currently, where
like
I
you
lagged
currently,
out
which
spectating.
I'm not sure how that happened.
I lagged out while spectating earlier, then
we've now got two of you. So that's an example of it. Yeah, it's just because us being spectators, there's not really an issue of an errant spectator screwing anything up. So.
Happy days.
That's what we ended up with now. Yeah. They should never give us free air in commentary because we go wildly off script and we end up discussing biscuits.
Don't encourage me to do biscuits. I'm getting hungry. I haven't had dinner yet, so it's currently 9:30 down under in South Australia, and I'm getting peckish. And
why didn't you eat before you commentate?
Because shut up, okay? I normally eat dinner late anyway, like 8:30, so I'm not hungry before I start commentating, and then I'll get halfway through and I go, damn, I am starving. Nether has improved his lap time to a 21.3, which takes him ahead of Brian Walsh. It looks like we're ready to jump into the race server fairly shortly. So it is a full progressive grid, and so that will mean that we will have the RS class in the midst of the R class. And hopefully we'll get underway soon, so I can go eat.
That would be good. I know I've got dessert waiting for me when this finishes as well.
Dessert, man.
That was warm and probably should be eaten warm. So I don't know. Anyway, sooner we get this going from where we sit, the better.
Absolutely. Rossi, get it together.
No, I don't think it's all of this outside of Rossi. Absolutely, outside of Rossi at the end of race 2 and Rossi during race 2. I don't think that any of this has been Rossi's fault.
But we can blame him anyway.
No, I mean, to be fair, the people that when we blame for something, if something goes wrong is me.
That's true. Rody, what's going on? Why is...
Yeah, I know. I should be pulling my finger out. I should be, I should be racing. I should be running the server or adminning, and I should be commentating all at once.
Yeah.
Although the last time I raced and commentated at the same time, I think it was TSAC, and that didn't go well.
That is true. In fact, the last time you tried to race and grab your water bottle was a bit of an issue, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. I've got to still got to figure out what I'm doing for that for the 1000 this year, and I've had so many people offer to come drive with me, but I've got to figure that one out. Anyway, that's 2 months away on a completely different channel, different server, completely different set of circumstances. We got race 3.
So just for context, during a race last year, Rody went to grab his water bottle and ended up having a Rody meets wall moment at 300 kilometers per hour down Conrod Straight. It was hilarious. It looked like he fallen asleep at the wheel.
I did about 3 pirouettes and got no car damage, which was the most confusing part of that.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as hopefully what the racing is going to be for this third race this evening. As we saw, it's going to be Brendan Hobson leading us away. Tim Redmond starting from 5th in the R class with Braxton Stancliffe stepping out for race 3. And of course, the grand return to ASR for Netherrealmian behind the driver's seat. And we should be off on the warm-up lap, or the formation lap rather, very, very soon. It is Brendan Hobson taking the first 2 races this evening. He's looking for a 3-peat to go with his pole position from number 1 on the grid. Scott Nolan will start alongside him in 2nd place. He missed qualifying, but did a great job to make his way through to 2nd on the 2nd race of the evening. Brendan Foley will start from 3rd. He's been the closest challenger to the Synergy Sim Racing trio, with Luke Rosella starting from 4th place. Rody.
Yeah, so starting pretty early because of how the grid's shaping out, but starting from 5th is the R-Class leader in Tim Redmond. Starting alongside him in 6th will be Ben Hall. He had a good race in that 2nd race. Just generally had a good night tonight, so it'd be good to have a nice another race of that quality to finish out the night for him. Starting from 7th is Luke Joyner in the RS Coca-Cola MHRT car, with Tomo starting from 8th. He's got a little bit of work to go. He didn't lose any positions at that finish. He just picked up some steering damage and definitely lost some time to the cars in front. Steve Bold will be starting from 9th, with Steve Warwick in 10th. They'll have another good battle again, I suspect. Nathan Higginson, no, sorry, that's not Nathan Higginson yet. It's Brian Walsh starting in 11th for Wildcat Playboy Racing, with Nathan Higginson with the very aggressive tyre warming starting from 12th. He's got a bit of a work to do to get back to his RS compatriots. Taipan will be starting from 13th after that late drive-through. He's got a bit of work to do. As does Brendan Ross starting from 14th. He's also, as I said, got a lot of work to do to get back to the rest of the RS class cars. Starting off at the back of the grid, and just here for some fun, and just to be another driver on our R-Class points score, will be another Netherrealmian in the number 61 Olan's Genev Racing machine that was painted and entered for Gary Neville.
And there we go. That is our 15-car grid for the final race this evening. And we'll find the right camera point this time as the last few come up to the field. You can hear the revs rise. The lights come on. And we're away. It's a jump start from Brendan Ross down the back of the grid. He goes straight into the pits. Very canny driving there, as they all seem to manage to make it away quite nicely from the front row. It looks like Rosella's got the jump on Brendan Foley down in the 2nd row as they all come in to turns 1 and 2. This is where we saw carnage last race. Let's see if they can sneak it through this time. Bit of bump and barge in the middle with Nathan Higginson and Luke Joyner. But otherwise, they all seem to escape out the other end without any issues.
I'll be honest, I'm still lost for words, and if that works for Rossi, that is a mega brain IQ moment there. Anyway, yeah, I'm thrown off a little bit. So now we've got Nathan Higginson and Luke Joyner up on the back of Ben Hall trying to get through as well. Bit of a spinner on the background. That was
Taipan and Steve Warwick. There was a bit of contact there as well. Taipan just tried to get up the inside of Warwick and made contact at the rear.
Here you go. He nearly got tipped into a spin there with Joyner. They were trying to go 3 wides through one of the right-handers. Ben Hall was involved and won no part of it, back out of that pretty quickly. And they're both now coming up on Tim Redmond, who he's going to make them earn it because he can, and I think he can afford to lose a second or two here with the pace he's had tonight. Ooh. And slight door there from Higginson, and Joyner's probably going to he should have a run down the straight, especially with a toe from Higginson. And he has, so that gets those two through. Yeah, pretty hectic start to that race.
Not quite as hectic as last race around, but
Obviously,
still quite hard as Ben Hall gets the swapper going on into turns 1 and 2, and he runs wide. And Turmo also runs fairly wide, and is that Bolger going to sweep through and take both of them? Not quite both, but he does get past Ben Hall.
Yeah, so this is going to be just a little battle now. We know Steve, or at least we suspected Steve would have the pace to race these guys if Steve and Warwick weren't having the battle in race 2. So now this gives us a chance to actually see this. And I believe, actually, Warwick's a bit further back there. He's back with Walshy and Nether as well.
Yeah, and that was because of the incident with Taipan.
It was, yes. But yeah, now that Steve's up with these guys, we should get a good little battle going. We know Tomo's probably a little quicker than Ben Hall at this stage. We don't quite know where Steve's pace is relative. He didn't actually, well, he didn't qualify for the night, so we haven't got any indicative pace there. But no, I think this should be a good little battle for the next couple laps of the relist.
We've moved up the field to have a look at the battle for seconds. It's exactly the same as it was in the second race of the evening. Scott Nolan, Luke Rosella, and Brendan Foley nose to tail heading down the main straight. They tip it into turn 1. Foley runs it very wide. He's off the grass and he's gone.
No, he's gone. No. He was nearly going to save that. He was so close to saving that. In the end, he just didn't, and that's a shame for him. That's put him back with now Nathan Higginson and Luke Johnny. He's probably got the pace to pull away from these two.
We're just going to watch a replay. We're just going to watch a replay on board and see how it panned out. He had a big twitch on the first turn in, tried to gather it up, and then got the rear on the grass, and that just absolutely sent him. So that was all she wrote for Foley, and he now sits in 5th place.
Yeah, and I was going to say Higginson, Foley probably had the pace to get away from Higginson. Higginson did qualify fairly well, not as good as Foley, obviously, but no, Higginson's got past and making it. Might have turned down on Foley there. I'm not sure whether Foley went for a move that wasn't quite on.
I don't think that's a passing opportunity, truth be told.
Yeah. But all this is going to be doing is just giving the 3 SSR guys just clear space to just clear out in front.
Another big wild moment we caught there for Luke Joyner in the background, or in the foreground rather. That's the second one that I've noticed at that particular corner at turn 9. So he's got to keep his wits about him to make sure that he doesn't grab a track cut penalty, as we're watching Foley make the move on Higginson, as well as Rosello try to make the move on Nolan further up. There goes Nolan, and Higginson! Woo! Somehow managed to gather that up and maintain the position as well. We're going to watch a replay of that because that was wild.
Like, he was lucky Foley was there to catch his car, and then that wasn't really a block pass because he wasn't behind, but that was a bit of a block defender. He went a bit deep but didn't run off, and then just parked right in front of Foley, who had nowhere to go, and he's nearly tried to roll it again.
There was no contact there. We're just catching Higginson now back, dropping back behind. There was no contact in the middle of that corner. That was just the 4-wheel drift down into turn 1. Awesome stuff from Higo. Crazy car control. Now let's have a look at this battle, this R-Class battle. Turmo, Ben Hall, and Steve Bolger. Bolger's been cycled to the back of that group as Turmo's made his way through. And so we saw this in the first race and the second race as well. Ben Hall and Turbo very closely matched. And this time, Steve Bolger just tacking on to the back of them as well. It looks like Turmo's actually found a little bit of pace tonight because he's streamed away to the tune of about a second.
Yeah, his car language suggests he's managed to get some turning going, which is good. Whether he's going for that worn rear strategy that I mentioned right at the start of the night or not, whether that's potentially helping him some turning, but he's definitely looking fairly comfortable in that car. He's starting to play a bit of a lead now over Hall. He did get past Bolger in that last lap or so. But the gap is now a second between the two of them. It's got potential of closing up. Ben hasn't quite the pace, but all good. Actually, no, it's about to get interesting now, actually, because Tomo's run wide at turn 2.
Blimey, it always gets interesting when we leave it. See, this is what anyway, Hall's moved through now. Has he? Turmo goes deep under brakes and gets the position back. But it's really, to use a mad birdism, it's nuts to butts as they come up through turn 4. This time, Hall's on the inside. We'll jump on board with Hall and see how it looks from his view. He's got Turmo in the front windscreen and Bolger in the rear view mirror.
And it's somewhat reset to what it was, just a little bit closer now. It's now about half a second either way between Turmo, Ben Hall, and Bolger. He's not quite the last time to make a move, but if he can... I'm not even sure whether Tomo just trying a bit hard to make that gap is what caused him to run wide, or whether it was maybe some pressure potentially from Ben. I know that they'll probably be in the same voice chat, and if we go back to, I think it was ARC's, one of our ARC's last week, Termo was doing a redubbed impression of the 2.5 Men theme to put Ben off. So whether Ben's worked out something at his end he can do to try and psych Termo out, I don't know. But
Maybe
definitely some
just
good
swinging
balance.
out to the
There's
inside.
a yellow down at turn 1, and it's for Joyner.
Luke Joyner, he's currently in 7th place. He's just ahead now. You can just see him rejoin. He's had a bit of a torrid night in that RS machine, so not the best for him. He's actually dropped back behind Tim Redmond as this battle rages on. Something we did just catch and then didn't talk about was Luke Rosella had gotten past Scott Nolan for 2nd place. So it is now blue from red from green in the SSR colours.
No, I was supposed to say it's alphabetical, but it's not. It'd be blue, green, red. Anyway, don't worry about that. But no, they were having a good battle there for a couple of laps. I did cycle through them while I was looking at some other stuff. But in the end, Luke did come out front. I think Luke has a slightly better pace than Nolan, at least because he's been able to practice tonight, unlike Nolan, who jumped in fresh into the warm-up. But no, I imagine, even though this is an SSR 1, 2, 3, I imagine that if there's pace to allow for it, these guys will still have a good race. Actually, that said, they do seem to be... Luke might slightly be catching Hobbo, although maybe it's just a trick of the eye.
Hobbo did set the fastest lap of the race last lap around. In fact, all 3 Synergy Sim racing cars this lap got a track cut in turn 1. Or sector 1, rather. All 3 of them. So they're really finding and exceeding the limits. This is the closest battle on track. We are still watching Ben Hall in the middle of Termo and Warwick. In fact, Termo and... Not Warwick. Bulger. The other, the Stoive.
The Stoive.
So what we might do, actually, we'll take a quick... What we'll do is we'll actually just sit on board with Ben Hall, and we'll just listen, watch and listen as this lap goes on. And Termo runs a little wide through turn 4, and that's straight through for Ben Hall. Perfectly timed, that one.
So he's been working on that one throughout the past lap, just trying to find a spot to go through. And these guys have been racing together for, again, not only here tonight, but also just across quite a few different series over the past couple of weeks. So they're starting to get a knack of generally how they like to race each other, and how each car in that 2 battle train likes to race of itself. So you know where people's weaknesses generally are and where people would want to go for a move. That was a bit of a touch, and I'd expect Termo to redress that.
But Bulger's in the middle of it, and they're going to come 3 wide down the main straight. Termo's going to be very, very canny about where he releases.
He is trying to redress that while not letting Bulger through, and I think he's managed that. I'm not sure whether maybe a bit of communication with Bulger played a part in that as well. I think they're all on the same channel. That's possibly where he's gone, look, I need to redress, but you know, I don't want to cause any more incidents. Can we just kind of arrange this?
Nah, if I was Bulger, you throw that up at the inside as hard as you can.
Oh, it's up to those guys. I mean, you know, if you know, championship race, which it kind of is, I suppose, for these guys. These not so much Ben in the point structure, but these guys are so 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Yeah, by all means, go for it. But No, I mean, if that was what happened, either way, just respectful to Bolger to maybe recognise from his point of view that a redress needed to happen there, and he didn't want to, he wanted to do the respectful thing and wanted to pass Tomo on merit, not because Tomo made an error. I don't know.
Yeah,
It could be some very wholesome racing. It could just be something that was coordinated to just have minimal impact.
I actually think Tomo did a very, very good job there of rolling out just the right amount to slide his way in between the two of them down the back straight, because he did a very good job there to end up exactly where he needed to be after making that little bit of contact to unsettle Ben Hall. And it was a good redress, but it was certainly a redress that needed to happen. And Tomo was... He might be a bit filthy with himself, actually. The reason that he lost that position is because he ran wide at turn 4 and gave Hall the chance to get up the inside at turn 6. So it was not necessarily the best moment of Tomo's night, that pass that he conceded. But he really hounded the rear of Hall on the second half of the lap, and then, ended up making contact with him.
Yeah, so I was just looking to see what else was happening. Now we've actually got... back with this battle, we've now got Bolger trying to bind on Tomo here. I don't know whether he's just the leader versus the follower thing you mentioned earlier, whether Tomo is a better leader or what, because he's doesn't look quite as comfortable behind Ben as he was in front of him. And Steve's taking the opportunity now to sort of incrementally bind on the back of Tomo with what is probably going to be another 6 laps left for these guys.
It's going to be a very, very close run thing. So what we'll do actually is, as we're actually just watching Taipan and Brian Walsh go side by side over the bridge with the leaders immediately behind them. That's a bit hairy. Oh, that's very hairy. Scott Nolan dives through the middle of the two of them.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm going to argue
the lights are on for Brendan Foley as well. He tries to make his way around Brian Walsh.
I'm going to argue from the point of the R-Class guys. I don't think Walshy really need to jump out of the way there. Same with Taipan. He's done a nice thing, but I don't know. It's a tricky one because they were having a genuine battle, those two, and they're going to come back to having one again. I think in all of that, actually, a bit we've missed of all that was Nolan dropping back a little bit. And that would have been the last lap. He did a 15.9. Granted, there was some lap traffic there, but I think something else has happened for him as well, because Foley's now back within a second, and Foley went and sprayed it wide in the first couple of laps. So for him to be back up on Nolan suggests both Foley's been putting his head down and something's happened to Nolan at some point.
I think Nolan just hasn't quite had the same race pace as the other guys. We're just watching everyone come through turn 1 and 2 at the moment. Nathan Higginson's done a very nice job. He still sits in 5th. Without taking a track cut at this stage of the race, or a track drive-through penalty. Luke Joyner is in 6th place. He's still making his way through. And then there's Tim Redmond, the R-Class leader. Excuse my very shaky camera work. So he sits in the R-Class lead, as there's the rest of the field going up the hill. This is that battle pack we were looking at earlier, and that's Bolger now ahead of Tomo. So that's a move that we've missed. So that's that little battle pack still going along their way. The next car we should be waiting for is Steve Warwick. There's Steve Warwick coming down the hill. And then it should be our leaders once again. And there is Brendan Hobson. So that's sort of the gaps throughout the field at the minute. And Luke Rosella, we're just going to catch him here. He's spun it. He's held it through turn 1. Just managed to gather that one up. So very nicely done from Luke. Not so nicely done to have... put it that wide in the first place. We are just going to go grab that battle between Bolger and Tomo once again. This has been the action. This has been the flashpoint for the entire race, Brady.
Yeah, pretty much. There's been a little bit of squabbles coming on, and it seems at the back end of this race we might get a battle for the last over the podium, which, a bit of bias here towards PBF, obviously, because I'm one of the drivers. I'd like to see Foley sneak onto the podium here. No, this has been the action center for the race. It's been essentially the mid-pack or the front mid-pack for the R-Class field. Ben Hall now starting to clear out quite comfortably from Bolger, who, as we mentioned, got past Tomo in the last lap. So we didn't unfortunately miss that overtake, but he was buying in there for a good couple of laps. So, I imagine he took his time with it and made sure it was done properly, so he didn't have to fight it too much. But yeah, Tomo now back in 10th. That's a
problem. He's gone.
He's killed his engine.
Oh no! It's
I'm just
all
hearing
over.
fire.
It's all over for Bolger.
commentary curse on how good he was doing for that to happen, and that's gonna sting. All right, so
Youch.
that takes him into the race. That moves Warwick up into 10th. It moves Taipan up into 11th, and Nether up into
12th.
12th. We've missed Brian Walsh DNFing at some point there as well. Whether, I don't know, it's just getting a bit too late for Walshy, or what's happened for Walshy, I'm not sure. I might have to look back in the replay and see if anything's come up.
Well, I have to chase that one up later because I did make a mental note of that happening in his battle with Taipan, but I haven't been able to follow that one up either, unfortunately. We've got eyes now on Brendan Foley in his endeavours to chase down Scott Nolan. They're separated by 1.3 seconds. Foley had a very slow first sector, about 7/10 slower than his direct competitor that time around, and that's dropped him off the back, I think. Oh, we've got a DNF for Higo as well. We'll see what happened to Higo. And he's had an accident. He's had an accident with Nether. Oh no, what's happened here?
That's not gonna. I think they're two separate accidents, to be fair.
Well, let's have a look. So we've got, it's at turn 1, and I think you're right. I think so. We've got Higginson going well off the road very early in the corner and hitting the wall hard, and then arrives on the scene, Netherelmian, straight into that same barrier. So I wonder if they both had some sort of failure at the same stage, because Nether's also DNF'd as well.
I imagine that the contact with the walls probably put in some pretty severe damage into the car itself. Higginson, with the races he's been having, probably wasn't worth trying to put a recovery drive on with at this late stage of the race. And Nether, he was tracking around ahead of Taipan and Walshy, but he was not in contact with Warwick or Termo or Ben Hall. And again, as I said, he's here for some fun. So
oh no, drive-through penalty for Foley.
Oh, and everything's just going wrong. All right, so that's actually he's had an off somewhere. Oh no, okay, sorry, that's just live timing doing its own thing. There it goes. So he's picked up a track cut. I think it might be. I'll have to scrub back to see.
Turn 6 was where it popped through.
Oh,
turn 6 or turn 4.
No, he's put two wheels on the inside. He's turned in a bit too early coming off the bridge.
Yeah,
and got a track cut there.
See him peel into the garage, into the pit lane rather, and that leaves this man out in front once again. Brendan Hobson. He's going to make it 3 for 3, provided nothing serious happens in the last lap. And we say that, provided nothing happens, but we've seen already plenty of times tonight that plenty can happen. He's been utterly flawless tonight, taking a fastest lap as well in all 3 races, if I recall correctly, to go along with his pole position and 3 race wins. Is that like a mega Grand Slam? Is that how that works?
There's probably some title for doing that outside of just it's not quite a clean. Oh no, it is a clean slate, I suppose. Or is it? I don't know. It's late. My brain for that sort of things has gone to sleep. Anyway, it's just been another dominating performance from Hobson, and it's not really too much of a surprise with someone of his pace. He was challenged early in a couple of races there by Foley, but luck just not going Foley's way. Clearly not in this third race, but Hobson does take the win in race 3. Second will be Luke Rosella, with Scott Nolan coming off the line for third. So that's SR 1, 2, 3. Nolan's actually
trickling across the line.
Okay,
maybe he's run out of fuel right at the very end, or maybe he's
got fuel. I don't know. He's doing a thing for a reason.
He's doing the Mario Kart thing. Steve Warwick comes home in 9th, so that is 4th in the R class. Termo's already finished in 2nd in the R class. Here is Luke Joyner coming home in 4th overall. Great result for Luke in the end. Taipan finishes in 10th. Here is Brendan Foley after his mishap with the drive-through penalty late in the race. The next car we're waiting for will be this man, Ben Hall, who will come home 2nd in R class, provided he doesn't pick up a track cut in the last corner.
I think it'll be really good. It's pretty hard it can be challenging to get to the apex of that last corner, let alone pick up a track cut. And he's made it. Now he has made it across the line. He was maybe a cheeky wobble just for us to see. Timo was here, 8th. And then Steve Rock 9th, Taipan 10th. Higginson, and actually, there's something I want to know as well. I think on a percentage of cars started percentage of cars started to cars DNFs, this might be the highest attritional race we've had in a long time. I think it's definitely the most DNFs we've had in a Super Series race this season.
Yes, 5 DNFs. Higginson and Ross from Class RS, and then Bolger, Nether, and Brian Walsh from the R Class. So quite a few casualties tonight in the last race, but certainly a good one to watch as well. We should be getting the drivers in the booth fairly shortly, and we'll be able to quiz them about their evening. Let's start with no one, because no one's made their way in yet. That's annoying.
They'll be on the way up when they came. Probably just someone probably debriefing. Well, not that they're actually involved, but there was so many things that we thought were going to happen that didn't happen, and then just stuff that got spoiled. I don't know. That was a race.
That was in fact a race, and we have got the SSR crew in the booth now. We'll start with our Grand Slam taker tonight, Brendan Hobson. Pole position, fastest lap in race 1, fastest lap in race 2, fastest lap in race 3, and all 3 wins as well. That's a cracking night for you, Brenton.
Yeah, I couldn't ask for a lot better than that. That was I love Oran Park. What a good track. And yeah, I had fun tonight. It was good.
You must love just hot lapping then, because for a lot of the race you spent a lot of the night rather you spent by yourself.
Yeah. The second race was pretty interesting for a little bit there, and I had my little moment down at turn 1, like everyone else does on the first lap, and I thought we were in a bit of trouble, and took a few laps to work our way back through to the front. But yeah, it's just one of those tracks. I mean, I'm happy to drive around here by myself all the time because it's just a fun track. It flows so well, even in these cars that sort of understeer bus a bit. The flow of a track like this is really good. So I still had fun all the same, and yeah, bit of spice in the second race.
Yeah, absolutely, and a bit of a challenge in the first race with Foley keeping you honest for a lot of the first half of the race. Comparing yourself to the other drivers in this category and your SSR teammates, what's been the most, I don't know, the most challenge that you've had in this series so far? Because it seems that you're able to just walk away at the front quite easily. I know this one's one of your favorites, but surely it doesn't always come that easy to you, right?
No, well, neither of those guys have been in the car for a while, so they've missed a few, and they just jumped in tonight. I don't know how many laps Luke did, but I know that Scott did none. So unsurprising for them to jump in and be maybe not quite fully on the pace. I haven't missed a round. So, early in the season, they were both able to go with me. And if they were putting in the time, then it would be a lot closer, I'm sure. But they're both quick. And to your point, like the first race, I didn't have it my own way there either. It was a bit of a tyre race in that one. I was pushing as hard as I could and trying not to hurt the tyres. And then late in the race, I managed to do the slightly better job of that and gap away at the end. But it was still, again, not all on my own terms. So, it's not always easy, or as easy as it might look. And a track like this, it's pretty easy to make a mistake as well. So there's certainly challenges to it, even if it didn't necessarily look that challenging.
Well, it certainly looks very easy from our standpoint. You walked away with a nice haul of points and fastest laps and a qualifying pole as well. So congratulations on an awesome night for you, Brendan Hobson.
Thanks, guys.
I'll throw it over to Rhodey to pick who we talk to next.
Alrighty. I think we'll next swing over and have a chat to Luke Rosella. Not the best start for you tonight, mate, missing out on qualifying, but from there, you put your gloves on and got to work.
Oh, I actually had my gloves off for once tonight. In real life. It was fun. We just came on here with a bunch of mates in the Discord and just had fun. Hobson was just too quick tonight. I think he probably had about 3 or 4 tenths on me overall throughout the night. Had a few silly run-ins of people first couple of races, but we had kept it interesting. We had to fight back through the field, and had some pretty fun battles of the other guys. It was good.
Yeah, I was going to say that the reverse grid race too. It definitely had you on your toes. I think you bounced off someone's door early, which put you back around, and you had to fight back through again. But it's still going to be rewarding getting back through the pack to take a good result.
Yeah, of course. It's yeah, some people don't like it, but yeah, it's really fun. You know, starting back in the pack, and you know, you've got the pace to sort of fight through. But yeah, it was good. Third race was also pretty fun. Scott actually let me through to try have a crack at Hobbo, but yeah, he was just too quick. Yeah, it was a pretty fun night, and yeah, I've got got one of my favourites coming up next round, Long Beach. So yeah, I can't wait.
That is 2 rounds time. We're at Manfield first, but yes, the last round will be Long Beach. All right, so
Yeah,
another round to go.
That's
Yeah.
how excited that's how excited I am, Brady. I'm thinking it's next round, but no, I can't wait. It's gonna be good.
Alrighty, good to see you tonight, mate, and good luck for next round.
Thanks, Brady.
Alrighty, I will have a chat to the third of the SSR drivers in Scott Nolan. Scotty, we didn't expect to see you tonight because you only rocked up in warm up. Did the lack of practice have any effect on your pace in the first race?
Probably. I was probably the 5th fastest car tonight and got 3 podiums, so I guess that's a win. But yeah, I just been snowed under with work, and it's a crazy time of year leading into Christmas. So you know, sim racing's always been on the back burner this year for me. But the thought of Oran Park, Sydney track, I'm a Sydney guy, so I was like, I better come and have a run. And yeah, it was good fun actually. There was, you know, it was very good in the RS. Yeah, I think am I in an RS? Is that what we're driving?
You're in an RS, yep.
Yep, they're cool, sweet. Yeah, it was good in the RS. We were all just in the same chat, talking a fair amount of smack. And race 1 was pretty funny. We were trying to hype it up a bit with Rossi and Luke. We were dive bombing each other every corner just for a bit of fun there. And then race through the reverse grid, bit of mayhem at the start. And then, yeah, held off Foley and Luke, which was surprising. And then race 3, I gave Luke the chance to have a crack at Hobbo because I knew it was going to be quicker. And then if Foley didn't bowl a wide down there at turn 1, he would have been ahead of us too, and we would have been 4th, which is probably where we should have been, seeing that Rossi was at the back of the grid. So, yeah, cool. It was good fun. I love Oran Park. It's a shame it's gone. I've helped in the demise of it because I've built a lot of houses out there in the past. So, yeah, it's good that we can still race it on here.
Oh, it is, yeah. And that's one of the best part of this is being able to make and visit tracks that we wish were still here. Yeah, a pretty good night for you, considering, and hopefully we'll see you at Manfield in a fortnight's time.
See how we go. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thank you, Scott. And I feel like we should round out the RS by talking to Brendan Foley as well, who took home a podium and was in the mix throughout the evening. Brendan Foley, good night's racing for you. You really had the pace to take it to Hobbo in the early part of the night, but as the races went on, sort of fell away a little bit, and with that penalty right at the very end, not the greatest way to end your night, but still good to see you up at the very, very front.
Yeah, happy to be at the front. And as you summed it up, definitely made a couple of mistakes in race 3. Just got a little bit too eager on a couple of the curbs, trying to catch back up to Scott after I made a couple of mistakes. But probably should have been on for 3 podiums, but still happy with the result.
And 2 podiums and a 4th place, or 5th place in the end it was, unfortunately. Not too bad a night's work for you. You've got 2nd place in the championship pretty well cemented. What do you keep fighting for, knowing that you've got 2nd place cemented and there isn't really too much of a challenge to try and get to 1st? What keeps you coming back?
Just the desire to win. I don't like just half-assing it. Yeah, if I'm driving at 110%.
You reckon you'll snatch a race win from Hobbo one of these days, eventually, maybe, perhaps?
I'm going to try my best. As he said, I do have some pace at some tracks, but following him, I managed to completely burn the tyres off it by halfway through the race. I've got to sort that out first, and I might possibly have him have a chance, but we all know he's just really good.
Yeah, really good might be a bit of an understatement. Well, hopefully you crack through and break the SSR dynasty for one race. We'd love to see that. And congratulations on your 2 podiums tonight.
I'll try my very best. Thank you.
And that is the RS class runners of note this evening. Let's jump to the R class runners, and we'll start with our ever-present race winner, Tim Redmond. Tim, almost as dominant as Hobbo in the RS class, or were you tonight in the R class? Just take us through your evening.
Yeah, my evening was a bit of a dream actually. So we had a very nice pole position after qualifying. We managed to follow that through with a race win, and then 2 more after that. And I'd say the first race in particular was fairly uneventful, mostly because you have the faster cars obviously moving forward, and I had a bit of pace on the guys behind me, so I was able to sort of maintain a very nice gap there. Race 2, obviously a lot more challenging, starting from the back of the grid, and naturally her turn 2 around this particular circuit likes to breed on the first lap a little bit of interesting fun. So we managed to avoid a bit of the chaos and make it through, score a few places as we needed to on the first 2 laps, and start driving away again. So again, the rest of the race there was fairly uneventful. Just trying to keep up pace and not get lapped by Hobbo. And the third race, more or less the same as the first. So we had a good place. We were in front of a couple of the RS cars, so that mixed things up a little bit. Made things a little bit more exciting, and we managed to again follow through with a nice clean victory at the end of that one.
Yeah, well done. It was a great night's work from you. Have you made any more thought in that challenge that Kiwi and I gave you in the first half of the season?
Look, I gave it a go at Winton, but we didn't quite make it work. So I may have to give it another go before the end of the season.
I would have thought of all the rounds, Oran Park with the shortest pit lane would have been the way to go.
Well, that was why I gave Winton a go, because it's fairly short, but also quite a long circuit. You're right. I didn't really think about it too much for this one, but I'll tell you what. There's still, I think, 2 more rounds left to go, so plenty of opportunity to give it to attempt it. So
brilliant.
See how we go.
Love to see it, Tim. Congratulations on your night of driving tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Rody, over to you.
All right. We'll have a chat to Tomo first. Pretty good night for you, Tomo. You were obviously not quite on the pace of Timmy, but you had some good battles there with Ben and with, I think, at least one, if not both, the Steves at some point. How'd your night go from where you sit?
I don't know.
Well, you
finished.
That's true.
I mean, you had some good results. I mean, the end of the second race was an interesting one from where you sat.
Yeah.
But overall, you're pretty happy with how the night went?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. That's about the average amount of words I can get out of you in an interview over the last 5 days. So we're at least hitting the minimum numbers.
Well done, Tomo.
Having raced there previously in I think it was the 2020 Super 2 series, what's your thoughts as we move on to Manfield?
I don't know. It's a track.
It is a track.
That I'll lose to Tim again.
Well, I mean, it is a Kiwi home circuit, so it'd be a bit embarrassing if he wasn't able to do good there. But no, a good race for you, Tomo, and it's. I haven't actually seen where we sit in the points, but I mean it's
second.
Comfortably second, and with Steve having the race he's been having, that helps you out. So good race tonight, Tomo, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time.
Thanks.
And last but not least, we're going to have a chat to Ben Hall. Pretty good night from where you're sitting, Ben. You weren't quite there in practice pace, and then you came to qualifying and pulled out an absolute stinker.
Yeah, mate. I haven't had a lot of time to do any practice laps or anything like that. So jumped on and thought, oh look, I'm not going to have any pace. So I'll just kind of trundle around at the back, and come qualifying, chuck all the fuel out of it, and do that lap. And I'm like, yeah, right, well, fucking P3, and let's go.
Awesome. And then from there, you just kind of kept the pace up. You didn't quite have the pace, obviously, to catch Tim, but you and Tomo are having a good scrap in, I think, all those 3 races. Was that enjoyable from where you were sitting?
Oh yeah, me and Tomo had some epic battles, and didn't have the pace to follow Tim. But for my end, both all 3 races were pretty eventful for me with the battling with Tomo.
I mean, just generally, outside of Super Series, we know over the last couple of weeks that you and Tomo have been battling pretty hard together. I can call a moment, I think it might have been the ARCs, where which Emma tried to put you off with a re-lyricking of the 2.5 Men theme. Is this a rivalry that you guys can see growing from here?
Oh, I don't think it's going to be a rivalry as people would call it. I think it's more just friendly banter and just nice, hard, clean racing. But yeah, me and Termo were just having banter through all those 3 races and made a couple of mistakes here and there. So he capitalised on those, and then he made 2 or 3 mistakes here and there. So yeah, good night, and yeah, I don't think it's a rivalry. I think it's just friendly banter and good, hard, clean racing.
Good to see. I think, and then the night that'll probably bring you up to. You might end up being 4th in the championship here. So pretty good night to the races for you, and still 2 rounds to go.
Yeah, looking forward to those, and hopefully I can keep the momentum up and have good last 2 rounds.
That'll be good. Awesome. Good to chat to you, Ben, and good luck for the next round of 4 nights' time.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you very much, Ben. In fact, that's Ben's first podium since race 2 at Wakefield. Is how far it's been since his last podium. That was the reverse grid race as well. So well done tonight, Ben, and well done to all of our race place getters in this evening's action. And thank you very much, Rody, for jumping in and being in the combox tonight.
That's all right. It's been a while, as we mentioned at the start of this combat together, but it's nice to step in and nice to be watching the racing from here for a change, rather from my cockpit right down the back of the field. It's nice to get a view of what the guys at the front get up to.
Yeah, it's funny to see what the front of those cars actually look like, except for when they're passing you. No, your efforts are very much appreciated tonight, and yeah, we'll hopefully finish off the season. Just a reminder of the next few rounds of the season. We made mention in fortnight's time we are at Manfield Circuit Chris Amon over the ditch. So all the New Zealand drivers will have a bit of a home ground advantage in that one. And then wrapping up on the 7th of December with the Long Beach Street Circuit, the 1988 layout. As we heard, Luke Rosella very, very keen for that one. So expect him to be on fiery hot form for that one. As always, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening in. If you're watching, if you've been racing and watch the stream back, thank you very much for putting on a great show for us. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to be back in the broadcast chair. I've been Michael Zalavari. Thank you very much. Peace out.